By the time our gaze focuses back, it is now 7:30, and the Thompsons have just finished dinner.
Thanks for dinner, Mom.
You're welcome, Timmy. I hope you enjoyed the meatballs because you and Tommy will be eating the leftovers tomorrow night. Your dad and I will be going out for dinner. Isn't that alright, dear?
Of course, dear. I've made a reservation at the Italian restaurant half an hour from here.
Timmy's dad sounded gruff, but he was a real sweetheart, deeply in love with his wife and appreciative of his family.
Speaking of Tommy, where is he tonight?
Tommy had warned Timmy he wouldn't be able to play Final Fantasy II that evening, but Timmy had still hoped his plans would have changed by then. That seemed to not be the case.
He told me he's spending the night at Richard's,
said Timmy's mom.
Funny how Richard has grown long hair and a coquettish smile,
said Dad with a smirk.
Hush you,
said Timmy's mom, playfully smacking his dad in the back of the head.
He said he'd sleep over at Richard, and I trust their rights in the matter.
No mention of what he'd do or where he'd go before he went to bed, though.
Timmy's dad let a pregnant pause, and hopefully just a pause, hang, and continued.
I'm sure he went to see Jurassic Park with some friends. Or maybe Sleepless in Seattle.
Timmy was confused about the last remark. Who would want to go see a romantic comedy movie? It made no sense to him, so he shrugged his shoulders and asked,
May I be excused?
Yes, just make sure you put your plate away. Oh, and please no TV or computer tonight. You've been inside and glued to a screen all day, and your eyes need some rest.
But Mom!
sighed Timmy, putting his plate in the dishwasher. He glanced at his mom to see what his chances of weaseling out of it would be, and decided after one look that complying would be a good idea. This was not a strict prohibition yet, but it might turn into one if she believed he was getting addicted. And after all, she had agreed to let him host a sleepover next week.
Okay, I do have some books and magazines to read anyways.
Good, that's what I like to hear. Now run along so that I can have some alone time.
Yes, I can't wait to give my wife so many smoochies,
said Timmy's dad to his wife, which Timmy took as his cue to run out, followed by his parents' gentle laugh. As much as kisses grossed him out, he was glad his parents loved each other after all these years. While Timmy was sad to not be able to play games tonight, he did have a clue book, multiple manuals, and a library book to stick into, so he wouldn't be bored anytime soon.
Where did I start from? Let's grab Civilization's manual. I want to know and understand how to play the game. Build an empire to stand the test of time. Sounds good. Credits, table of contents. Oh, they're building a triangular pyramid? That's weird. I thought pyramids were like square. Civilization casts you in the role of a ruler of an entire civilization through many generations, from the founding of the world's first cities 6,000 years in the past to the imminent colonization of space. It combines the forces that shaped history and the evolution of technology in a competitive environment. You have great flexibility in your plans and strategies, but to survive, you must successfully respond to the forces that historically shaped the past. When play begins, your civilization is small and requires only a few decisions each turn. But each decision can have important ramifications later. A number of innovative displays make it easy to understand the issues and implement action. If you prove an able ruler, your civilization grows larger and even more interesting to manage. Inevitable conflict with neighbors opens new doors of opportunity. Treaties, embassies, sabotage, trade, and war. As time passes, the number of important decisions required each turn increases. First, you must think tactically. Location of cities, production of military units or city improvements, exploration of the immediate surrounding lands. Soon, strategic plans must be formulated. War or peace with immediate neighbors, when to explore and to expand overseas, when to change your type of government, where to focus technological research. The success of the civilization that you build depends upon your decisions. As ruler, you manage the economy, diplomacy, exploration, technology, research, and war machine. Your policies must be flexible in an evolving world. Military units inevitably become obsolete and need replacement as more advanced technologies appear. The balance of power among your rivals can shift. Economic and governmental policies may have to be modified lest you fall behind in critical technologies. The past civilizations of Alexander the Great, the Hittites, Napoleon, Genghis Khan, and others all held pride of place on the world stage at one time, but all eventually collapsed. You're a challenge in civilization to build an empire that stands the test of time. You may succeed where your predecessors failed. If you locate cities properly, build them soundly, defend them aggressively, and neutralize the danger from potential enemies, the descendants of your tribe may not only survive, but lead the colonization of space. Cities and civilizations. Civilizations appeared as agriculture and technology developed to the point where humankind could gather and live in cities. With only part of the population needed to provide food for all, the rest could afford to specialize in the tool-making, trading, engineering, and managing that urbanization made possible. Specialization improved efficiency and production. Cities encouraged a rapid exchange of ideas. A teacher could reach many students at once, not just a few. City residents cultivated the nearby fields, logged the forests, and gathered fish from the rivers, returning each night with the result of their labors. This produce and raw material was bartered in the city markets for the goods and services of others. Charcoal from one area and iron ore from another might be taken to the town smelter, who made the iron that the blacksmith turned into tools. But cities developed unique problems. As they grew in size, it became more difficult to provide sufficient food from nearby farmland. Overcrowding, menial jobs, and living conditions often led to unrest among the poorer citizens. Prosperous cities became tempting targets for rival civilization and barbarian invaders. Cities and civilizations that developed better management and new solutions to these problems grew and prospered. Those that have failed have left their ruins around the world as warnings. In civilization, as in history, a key setup and a fundamental concept is the founding and management of cities. Civilization that you are to rule begins as a prehistoric wandering tribe that has just reached a critical point where it is capable of building cities. The first step is to build one city and from there expand. As your civilization grows, cities will spread over an entire continent, or part of a continent, or over several islands and continents. Each city acts as a giant processing plant for the food, resources, and trade of the adjacent lands. The people of a city go out and work the nearby farmlands, mines, and forests, and the city converts the results of their labor into more people, armies, cash, luxury goods, temples, universities, etc. Raw materials are transformed by cities into the power and the ideas your civilization needs to prosper. Food that is collected feeds the local population. When there is a food surplus, the population grows. Your first city has a small population that can only work part of the lands the city controls. As the city population grows, more lands can be worked, increasing production. Before long, you can afford to send off settlers from the first city to build another nearby, and then another. Resources are lumber, metals, energy sources, and other raw materials that are used in an industry. Through the craftsmen and shops of the city, these resources are made into items useful at home or elsewhere in your civilization. Larger cities normally generate more resources and thus build things faster. Each city can build only one item at a time. This could be a military unit such as a phalanx or battleship, a city improvement such as a temple or university, or perhaps a wonder of the world. Trade is generated by the highways of commerce, roads, rivers, and oceans. All nearby trade passes through the city, bringing in luxury goods, cash, and new ideas. Your policy can adjust how trade is divided among luxury goods, cash, or research. There may be times when a city requires more luxury goods to make more people happy, or times when more tax revenues are needed in the treasury. Higher taxes mean more revenue but may result in more people becoming unhappy. As your cities grow, they may require more care in keeping them productive. Large cities are desirable for production but have inherent problems. The critical one you must deal with is the happiness of the population. The people can range from happy to content to unhappy. Having too many unhappy people may lead to revolt. Luxury goods make people happy but may mean fewer tax revenues or a reduced flow of technology. By adjusting the flow of luxuries, changing types of government, building cities improvements, instituting martial law, and other means, it is possible to keep even the largest city content and productive. Technology is a second concept fundamental to civilization. To make the transition from wandering hunter-gatherers to city dwellers, humankind had to possess some essential knowledge and skills. To advance beyond the first stages of a city dwelling requires a corresponding advance in knowledge. At the start of civilization, with your tribe poised on the threshold of history, they already possess some basic knowledge. The people understand agriculture, irrigation, construction of roads, and the construction of homes and other buildings. But this isn't enough knowledge to survive through the coming ages. Learning new technologies opens the door to new abilities. A small island-bound civilization that learns map-making can now build ships and expand overseas. The time it takes to acquire new technology depends on how much of your trade is allotted to new ideas. You must choose between luxuries that make people happy, cash for the treasury, and technology research. The more trade allocated to this research, the faster the next step is acquired. When enough research has been done, your civilization acquires the new technology and can begin working on something new. The world where your civilization exists is mostly unknown to you, a mystery except in the immediate vicinity. To find out more about it, you must explore. Not only is the world hidden, but also unknown are the locations of other civilizations. Other civilizations, especially those nearby, complicate your tasks as rulers. Each is ruled by one of your peers, and they are competing for the same resources and opportunities as you. You're also looking to expand and grow, at your expense, if given the chance. Once contact is made, you can no longer concentrate solely on the growth and expansion of your civilization. Now you must assess the strength of rivals, adequately provide for the defense of your cities in case of war, or consider making war yourself. Successful wars can be very useful. Capturing cities is much easier than building them up from nothing, and may provide loot and stolen technology and cash. Weakening rivals reduce the threat they pose. However, long, costly wars may allow unengaged rivals to expand and grow in strength while you spend resources on arms. To explore the unknown and contend with your rivals for the world, you can build armies, navies, and other special units in your cities. Once an army or naval unit has been built, it is available for movement and combat. These units extend the power of your civilization around the world. When they enter hidden areas of the world, the shroud of mystery is removed and that area becomes known. In this way, you uncover the world, finding suitable areas for new cities and eventually making contact with other civilizations. 3 special units are available that can be useful to you as ruler. Settlers are groups of your citizens that are your pioneers. They may found new cities and also build terrain improvements such as roads, irrigation, and mines that can increase the productivity of your cities. Diplomats are your emissaries and spies. They can establish embassies with rivals and also perform a number of cloak and dagger tasks. Caravans are bands of merchants and transport the produce of your cities or of the world to other cities, bringing in cash and establishing trade routes. Trade routes increase the trade of your home city, resulting in more cash, luxuries, and technologies. Wonders of the world are unique city improvements, usually structures, that can only be built once in the entire world. Once a particular wonder is built by a city, no other city can build one. Each wonder brings glory to the civilization owning it and some unique tangible benefit as well. For example, if one of your cities builds the oracle, then all of the temples throughout your civilization become twice as effective in making the people content. Fundamental concepts for a successful civilization are the expansion and growth of your cities and acquiring new technology. In a word, you must grow. In this dynamic world environment surrounded by rivals and unknown corners, there is no future in complacency and stagnation. You must press forward on all 3 fronts. Spread your cities out to claim a significant share of the world, increase the size and production of each city, and strive to acquire the latest technology. Your civilization cannot afford to lag too far behind your rivals in any one of these 3 spheres. A sufficient number of powerful cities can maintain the quality of your military in any arms race. Keeping abreast of technology assures quality. The Hittites of antiquity had a brief moment of glory because the technology of their weapons was superior to that of their neighbors. Those neighbors had a much larger population, and when they acquired the same new technology, the Hittites were ushered off the world stage. Cortez landed at the Aztec city of Veracruz with only a few hundred conquistadors, But with the aid of superior weapons and diplomacy, he soon had Montezuma crying in his chocolate. Oh, that's kind of mean to say. The Aztecs were deposed before they could learn the technology of the Spanish. Do what you can to keep your civilization growing in every area. More and larger cities, better technology, and better armies mean survival. Each city must be planned, managed, and protected so that it contributes to the power and glory of your civilization. By maintaining the pattern of growth over the years, you have the best chance of avoiding the fate of the Hittites and Montezuma. So, as a takeaway, the technology comes from trade, which is also responsible for luxury goods and cash. And we need to spread cities out, but make sure that we have enough resources to increase the size and production of each city, keep up with technology, and make sure we have a standing army that's strong enough to withstand enemy attacks. Alright, before we start, we've already installed. Everything's fine here. Bridge building. Interface introduction. Because Civilization was developed on an IBM system, the following discussion of the interface pertains to that version. Refer to the technical supplement for other versions for a description of the interface specific to those computer systems. Oh, I'm actually kind of curious now. What would those other systems be? Floppy disks. I don't know, there was nothing in the technical supplement. Oh, I guess if this was a different version for a different computer, there might be a technical supplement that would explain how it worked. The interface of Civilization is designed to take advantage of the mouse. It may be played with a keyboard-only interface, but play is faster if you have a mouse available. The IBM keyboard-only interface is discussed in the technical supplement. The interface operates mainly in two main game displays, the map display and the city display. Each of these displays is described in detail in its own manual section. Across the top of the map display is a menu bar. From the menus available here, you can reach additional game function and information not available from the displays. The interface relies heavily on menus that are all used in a similar manner. Label buttons are also used in several places to perform a game function or reach further information. Using the mouse, to click the mouse on some parts of the game, move the torch that is the pointer onto the desired location and click the correct mouse button. The left mouse button is used to perform actions such as scrolling the map or activating a unit. Opening menus. Throughout the manual, you are instructed to pull down menus to open them up and reveal the options they contain. To open a menu using the mouse, place the mouse pointer on the name of the menu bar, and press the left mouse button. Click the button, the menu opens and stays open. Yeah, okay, I know how to use the mouse. Click the left mouse button, yeah, that's fine. Shortcut keys, described in the technical supplement. Map interface is explained in detail in the map display section on page 28. Click the left mouse button on any unoccupied map square to center it on the display. That's fine. Click the left mouse button on the city on the map to open its city display. Press the exit button to close the map. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. Pre-game options. The beginning of Civilization requires you to make a number of choices regarding the parameters and world of the game you wish to play. To start, follow the instructions in the technical supplement for booting the game. After the title and credits appear, you proceed to the selection of the following pre-game options. First menu that appears asks you to choose which game to load. Start a new game. If this option is chosen, a new game is begun on a newly generated world. This world resembles the Earth in landmass, climate, and rainfall. The new game begins in 4000 BC. Load a save game. Choose this option to load a previously saved game. As prompted, enter the letter of the drive where your saved games are located and press the return key. When the list of saved games appears, select the game you wish to load. Earth. Choose this option to play on Earth. Your rivals are tribes placed in their historical location. Customize world. Choose this option to adjust your game world as you wish. For From the menus that appear, choose an amount of land mass, average temperatures, amount of moisture, and starting date. The middle option of each menu is the default Earth-like world. View Hall of Fame. Choose this option to open the Hall of Fame. For a description of the Hall of Fame, see page 23. Setting the stage. When starting a new game, regardless of where, a presentation of the planet's history precedes the game start and is shown while the world is generated. You can clear the screen to skip the story, press return key or spacebar on the IBM, but it may take some time anyway to generate the new world. Difficulty level. Choose the level of difficulty at which you wish to play. A number of factors are adjusted at each level, including the time it takes to produce new units and the pace of technological advance. Chieftain. This is the easiest level and is recommended for first-time players. The program provides advice when the player must make decisions. Warlord. Your rivals are somewhat tougher and technology takes longer to acquire. This is for the occasional player who doesn't want too difficult to test. And then Prince. Your rivals are substantially tougher and technology comes much slower. You will need some experience and skill to win at this level. Oh, it continues. King. Your rivals are most evenly matched with you in capability. Experienced and skilled players will play most of their games at this level as it is a strong challenge with victory far from foregone. Emperor. The most difficult level and only by those who feel the need to be humbled. The level can be won but not consistently. Level of competition. Choose between 3 and 7 civilizations in the world. More opponents is not necessarily more dangerous. The fewer your opponents, the more time you have to peaceably expand and develop before encountering rivals. More opponents means earlier contact and risk of war, but contact with other civilizations also offers the opportunities of trade, alliances, and the spoils of war. Pick your tribe. Select a tribe from the menu of options. Your first unit is placed on the map and the proximity of rivals is determined randomly except on Earth. In this case, civilizations are chosen somewhat randomly, but the ones chosen do start near their historic locale. And then enter your name. The game turn. Civilization is played in a series of turns, each following a sequence of play options. As each turn proceeds through the sequence, you direct the activities of your civilization, including the management of your cities, the production of new units, the building of city improvements, the movements and battles of your armies, and negotiations with other civilizations. Each turn proceeds through the following sequence of play. Date. A new turn begins with the advancement of the date. Okay. Disasters. At the beginning of a new turn, there is a possibility of a natural disaster striking a city in the world. Any disaster that occurs is reported and takes effect immediately. Disasters can result in loss of population or the destruction of a city improvement. Most disasters can be prevented by specific city improvement or technology. If the targeted city is prepared for the disaster, then the disaster does not occur. See disasters, page 88. City check. Each city in your civilization is checked individually for production, growth, unrest, maintenance, and scientific research. These concepts are explained in detail in the manual chapter Cities. All steps are carried out for one city before the next is checked. Production. If the city produces sufficient surplus resources to complete the item the city is producing, that item is added to the city. If the city does not produce sufficient resources to support all of the existing units for which it is its own city, units are destroyed until enough support is available. Units farthest away from the city are destroyed first. Growth. If the city produces sufficient surplus food, it grows by 1 population point. This added population is put to work on the city map. Disorder. If the number of unhappy citizens exceeds the number of happy citizens, each population growth through the destruction of a city improvement by disaster, your city goes into civil disorder. You receive a message reporting this condition. If this is the first turn of disorder, you jump to the affected student's display so adjustments can be made to return the city to order. If the situation is not corrected in following turns, you are notified that disorder continues. Maintenance. Taxes collected from the city are added to your treasury, and then the maintenance costs from improvements in the city are deducted. If you don't have sufficient funds in your treasury to pay the maintenance cost, one improvement in the city chosen by local leaders is sold. Note that while your civilizations as a whole may have a revenue surplus for the turn, you can still lose an improvement when your treasury is low. High maintenance costs for the first cities checked may deplete the treasure and force a sale before later cities contribute to cash surpluses. Ooh, that's tricky, okay. Scientific research. The research contributed by the city, measured by the number of light bulbs it produces, is added to the total so far accumulated by your civilization. If this total is sufficient to acquire the technology, you acquire the technology. Okay, so These are going to go in order of cities, probably from the older to the newer. You need to make sure you have enough production to maintain all the units you produce in a city. I need to make sure that you have enough money to pay for the maintenance. Jeez, okay. Movement and combat. After each city has been checked, you have the opportunity to move your active units. While a unit is moving and may engage in combat. Each active unit is designated for movement one after another. Each unit has the option of moving, not moving, or delaying its move until later in the turn. Combat occurs when a unit attempts to enter a map square occupied by a unit or city of another civilization. Exceptions, diplomats, and caravans. Normally, either the attacking unit or all defending units are destroyed when combat is resolved. A victorious unit with movement points remaining may continue moving and even attack again. During this movement phase, you may pause to perform all other management tasks for your civilization. You may wish to consult with your advisors concerning the state of your civilization's trade or science, or check the attitude of your population. You can examine any or all of your cities to adjust their workforce placements or production. This is the time to change tax rates, governments, or examine the state of international affairs. When all active units have been moved, your game turn is over and the next civilization moves. Once all active units have moved, your game turn may end. At this point, a blinking end of turn message appears in the unit identification window. So long as this message remains visible, you may still examine cities, consult advisors, etc. To end your turn, follow the prompt to continue the game. Once you choose to continue, you cannot examine cities, etc. until the next turn. The end turn message may be toggled on or off from the game menu. Okay. That's fine. Oh, when the end of turn message is off, you receive no warning that the turn is about to end. At the moment you move your last unit, your turn is over and the next civilization begins to move. Adulation. After all of the civilizations have taken their turn, there is a brief pause while the record keepers and historians examine their accomplishment to date. The people of your civilization may reward the outstanding success of your policies by expanding and improving your palace. In addition, independent historians and chroniclers may report on where you or your civilization stand compared to your rivals. Palace. As your population grows, the people spontaneously expand and improve your palace to reflect the glory that your rulership has achieved. When the total population of your civilization reaches certain milestones, you may increase the size or improve the quality of your palace. Clear the screen, press return in the spacebar or either mouse button after the people offer to improve your palace. When a picture of the current palace appears, select whether you want an existing part improved or a new part added, blah blah blah, okay? Palaces can be built in 3 styles: classical, medieval, or Middle Eastern. The miniature rendition of your palace is shown in the palace window on the map display. Historians. There are 4 historians who occasionally report on the progress of civilizations in the world. These reports are an opportunity for you to judge how you are doing. The historians are Herodotus, Pliny, Gibbon, and Toynbee. Civilizations may be judged in any one of 5 categories listed below. The published list includes only the known civilizations, those with whom you have established an embassy. Embassies are blah blah blah. However, all civilizations, known and unknown, are considered in rankings. For example, if your civilization has the 3rd highest population, but the larger civilizations are not known, you would appear at top of the list, but shown as number 3 in the world. Advancement is the number of technology advancement we've acquired. Happiness, the number of happy people. Power, the total attack and defense factors. Size, the population. Wealth, the amount of treasure we have. Ending the game and winning. Civilization may be ended in 5 ways. You may quit at any time, retire at any time. Okay. I guess. Be destroyed by a rival, continue on until the game and the history of your civilization both automatically end, or conquer the world by eliminating all other civilizations. If you retire, let the game run its course. The performance of your civilization is judged and compared against your peers. If you've been a good manager and leader, your name may be added to the Civilization Hall of Fame. Although the game ends for scoring purposes after you win, you may continue playing if you choose. After winning, you are offered the opportunity to keep playing if you wish to see what more you can accomplish. No additional scores kept for this extra play. So to win, you either have to conquer everything or continue until the end? Yeah, it's kind of funny that they're like, The game can end if you quit the program. Okay, yeah, I guess. You're not given a chance to start over in this world. You have no score. You cannot qualify to the Hall of Fame. The game of civilization ends when a spaceship containing colonists from any civilization reaches the nearby Alpha Centauri star system. All play temporarily ceases. Your final civilization score is reported and you are entered in the Hall of Fame if you qualify. However, you do not necessarily have to quit playing. Although your score is not recorded hereafter, if you wish, you may continue playing to see what the future holds. If you succeed in eliminating all other civilizations in the world, this is the ultimate achievement possible by a civilization. You are shown your score and entered in the Hall of Fame. You may review a replay of the world's history. Winning. You win a game in civilization in either of two ways, by eliminating all rival civilizations or by surviving until the colonization of space begins. The elimination of all other civilizations in the world is very hard to accomplish. You are much more likely to win being in existence when colonists reach Alpha Centauri. Even if the colonists are not yours, the successful direction of your civilization through the centuries is an achievement. You have survived countless wars, the pollution of the industrial age, and the risks of nuclear weapons. When the game is won by either method, your skill as a ruler is measured by the final civilization score. So you don't actually have to be the one to send the people to Alpha Centauri. You just have to survive until then, huh? Okay. 2 points for each happy citizen, 1 point for each content citizen, 20 points for wonder, 3 points for each turn of peace with no war anywhere, 10 points for each futuristic advance or civilization acquires, minus 10 points for each map square currently polluted. In addition to the above points, if your spaceship is the first to reach Alpha Centauri, you can receive a bonus score. This is 50 points per 10,000 colonists sent, multiplied by the success percentage of your mission. So, by the number of surviving colonists is what you're saying. It's really 200 1 point per 200 colonists that survive. Okay. If you succeed in conquering the world, you receive up to 1,000 civilization points plus a bonus for the date. Jeez. That seems like a lot. The Hall of Fame records the 5 best civilization that you have built, listed in order of their civilization ranking. Okay. The world. The world map. The world surrounding your civilization is an entire planet consisting of several continents, islands, and an ocean. Until a new planet can be generated, each game, or your civilization, can attempt to prosper on the historical Earth itself. All planets are bordered by impenetrable polar caps to the north and south, but are not bounded east and west. Okay, so we can, move off the east edge brings you back onto the west edge. As mentioned in the section on the pre-game options, new worlds are Earth-like in terms of temperature, moisture, and landmass. These factors can be adjusted if you wish to experiment with different combinations. You begin with almost no knowledge of the world. The wandering tribe that is the ancestor of your civilization, represented by one or more settler units, has explored only that part of the world that it occupies or can see nearby. The rest of the world and the other civilizations putting down their roots are hidden over the mountains, through the forest, and across the seas. As your units move and explore, they discover more of the world's geography, important resource sites, other minor tribes, and eventually the evidence of rival civilizations. The world is divided into small independent parts known as squares. Each square consists of a unique type of terrain. Each type of terrain has its own economic usefulness, effect on movement, and effect on combat. Detailed information about the terrain types is available from the terrain chart and technical supplements or in the Cybelopedia. Economic usefulness of the various terrains is important when selecting city sites. The terrain that is close to a city produces the food, resources, and trade the city needs to grow and be productive. Some terrain types are more valuable than others. Some may be irrigated or mined for increased economic value, and others may be converted into another type of terrain. See Settlers, page 37. When selecting sites for a new city, consider the terrain types that are within the radius of the prospective city. The best city sites offer immediate food, resource, and trade production, plus the potential for long-term development. Brief description of the terrain types follows. Arctic. Frozen glaciers of ice and snow found near the North and South Pole. Nothing useful. Desert, very dry region that can be developed to be marginally productive. There are some resources present that can be mined, food that can be produced if it's irrigated, and roads generate some trade. Grassland. These open lands are especially thick topsoils, making them excellent food-producing areas. Food production can be increased by irrigation. Roughly half of the grasslands have also some resources, making them excellent city sites. Grasslands may be converted into forests for increased resource production. So we want to irrigate them for food, convert them to forest if we want probably to get more resources for technology and stuff. Hills. An area of rolling hills that offers easy access to minerals, sources of water, pastures, and some possibility for agriculture. When mined, hills produce excellent resources. They also produce some food and can be irrigated as necessary. Irrigating hills allows the irrigation to pass on to further squares that may be otherwise cut off from water. That's interesting to know. Jungle. These areas of rainforest and dense jungle produce relatively poor amounts of food and no resources, but they can be made much more valuable by conversion into grasslands or forests. Okay. Mountains. The very rugged terrain can produce only a small amount of resources, but this can be increased by mining. Mountains make the best defensive terrain, but the production is so low they make a poor economic choice for the site of a city. Ocean. Oceans produce a small amount of food, but a substantial trade. Only ships or aircraft can enter oceans. Landlocked oceans are really lakes, but are treated like other oceans in all respects. Plains. These open areas differ from grasslands in having poorer soil but better resources of timber and minerals. They are poor food producers and less irrigated due to the presence of resources to make good choices for city sites. Plains may be converted into forests. Rivers. Rivers are great sites for starting cities and civilizations due to the richness of the riverbank soils and natural trade routes for boats. Rivers are as good as grasslands for producing food and always generate trade. River terrain may be irrigated to increase food production if it was no accident that the first civilization sprang up along rivers. Swamp. These coastal wetlands and flooded interior lands produce only a small quantity of food. Like jungles, however, they can be converted into grasslands or forest. Tundra. These forest lands of permafrost produce only a small amount of food from grazing animals. There is no agriculture or use for irrigation. So terrible to avoid. Almost as bad as Arctic and desert. Forest. These woodlands produce a modest mixture of food and resources. If more food production is needed in the area, they can be converted into plains. Okay. So it seems like that building on a river near a bunch of grasslands and hills is probably the best way to do it. Worst case scenario, having some jungles nearby or swamps nearby that you can turn into grasslands would be okay. Special resources. Special resources can occur in many terrains and add significantly to their economic value. The location of these resources is marked by distinct symbols that are uncovered as the map is explored. Terrain chart and technical supplement, okay. Coal in the hills. Coal deposits represent rich location of coal or metal ores. These areas produce greatly increased resources, especially when mined. Fish. Fish represent the location of underwater banks and reefs where currents and nutrients create excellent fishing grounds. Fishing banks produce increased amounts of food. Game, forest and tundra. The presence of game indicates excellent food sources available or the potential for good grazing. Game areas produce additional food but cannot be improved. Gems, jungle. Gems indicate the presence of precious stones, ivory, spices, salt, or other valuable commodities. These are good trade items and therefore generate substantial trade from the area. Gold, mountain. Gold represents a bonanza of gold and silver. The value of these deposits produce tremendous trade. Horses, plains. Horses represent an increase in resources from this area due to the benefits of using domesticated animals such as the horse or oxen to do work. For all but most recent periods of history, animals were an important source of lifting and power pulling. Oasis, desert. The oasis is a very fertile island in the desert that takes advantage of the presence of some water and rich local nutrients. This is an area that produces substantial quantities of food. Oil. Oil represents the presence of mineral wealth, especially petroleum, the result of substantial quantity of resources. If you convert terrain containing a special resource into another terrain type, The original special resource is lost. Okay. So basically, just be on the lookout if there is like any special resource on any of the things, and those are good to exploit. During exploration, minor tribes may also be discovered in the world. These are small tribes that have not yet advanced to be civilizations. If you enter a minor tribe's village by moving onto it, a number of things may happen. You may discover valuable metals, the tribe may become a mercenary unit in your army, you may discover a scroll of ancient wisdom that advances your civilization, your magnificence may inspire them to become civilized and found a new city in your empire, or they may prove to be extremely violent barbarians. Okay, here's the map window. A number of ways to quickly change maps, otherwise look different parts of the world. They are described below. You can just quickly scroll around the world by changing the map visible in the map display. When you center the map on the unit now waiting for orders, blinking orders where it is in the world. The waiting unit is not. If the waiting unit is not visible, the map scrolls so that this unit appears. You can center the city map on any known city in the world. Pull down the game menu from the menu bar and choose Find City. Okay. Note you need to tap the entire name of the city, just enough letters to distinguish it from any other city in the world. World window is in the top left. Okay. You can use the world window to speed the scrolling of the map display. Of course, you just put it somewhere and just click on it. The menu bar is across the thing. Yeah, okay. Game orders, advisor, word, Wikipedia. The options available from the game menu are the following. Revolution! In order to change your civilization's type of government, you must have a revolution. The government goes into anarchy for a period of turns, and a new type of government may be chosen. You must have acquired specific technologies to choose a type of government other than despotism. For a detailed explanation of these options, see section Government, page 43. Tax rate. The trade that the cities generate arrives as luxury goods, tax revenue, and new ideas. Here you can change the percentage to become tax revenue. Luxury rate, same thing. Find city, okay. Options with features like instant advice, autosave, end turn, and animations. Instant advice provides some helpful hints to new players. The autosave feature automatically saves your game every 50 turns. Save game, retire, quit. Palace window. This window presents a miniature rendition of your palace. Its breadth and grandeur is a depiction of how well your civilization is progressing. Okay. Oh, I guess they don't show me what the palace window looks like. Oh, that's the palace window. Window. Okay. Status report. Okay, that contains population, date. Oh boy, that's a lot of stuff. Luxury rate, tax rate, science rate. Okay, so that's 20, 30, 50% respectively, I would see. Treasury, science indicator, and environment indicator. Luxury, tax revenue. You have to adjust things. You do that in the new game menu. The scientific research indicator shaped like a light bulb shows how near you are to making a civilization advance. The nearer you get, the more the light bulb fills in. When the bulb is full, it is on, indicating you have acquired a new technology. Once the new idea is reported and your scientists are sent off to study something else, the light bulb is turned off. Okay. The environment indicator is the sun, and its color shows how great the risk of global warming. When there is no risk of global warming, the sun indicator is not present. With the first case of pollution, the sun indicator appears. The pollution continues, the color changes from red to light red, yellow, and then white. If it's not brought under control when the indicator is brightest, the planet suffers a bout of global warming, and then the indicator reverts to a cooler color, reflecting the new equilibrium. Pollution and environmental problems can also be caused by nuclear reactor meltdowns and fallout from nuclear weapons. So that's that, and then this is the unit identification window, which is for the unit we've selected. It has nationality, unit type, veteran status, moves remaining, home city, terrain, currently occupied, and others unit present. Home city is important for the production, I bet. Points are shown in thirds after the decimal point when moving along roads because roads triple movement. For example, a unit that begins with 1 movement point and moves 1 square along a road would be shown with 0.2 movement points remaining. What? Roads triple movement, so it would take 1/3 of that. Why are you using 0.8? Unit beginning on a square containing a railroad and moving along the railroad spend no movement points. The name of the city supporting a unit and normally this unit was built. You may transfer a unit to another city by moving it there and pressing the home city key. This may be useful when one of your cities is threatened with capture because all units supported by a captured city are destroyed. Ooh, ouch. The terrain type of the square. I bet that this is what happened to us in the game at some point where we lost some units. We either overextended in terms of the production, or one of our cities got captured, and so we lost all the units produced there. Yeah. Other units. Okay. Settlers, soldiers, and envoys. As ruler of your civilization, you decide what military units to build, where to deploy them, and when to fight. In addition, you control parties of settlers looking to found new cities, diplomats, and caravans seeking to establish new routes. Through the years, the majority of your time is spent moving and positioning armies. Strong military is required first for defense against rebels and barbarians. They are also the eyes of your civilization, exploring the world as they move. They can also serve you by defeating the armies of your rivals and conquering their cities. Armies can be ground military units like legions, cannons, and armor, for example, naval units, triremes, ironclads, battleships, etc., or air units, fighters and bombers. Also available are 4 special units: settlers, diplomats, caravans, and nuclear units. All unit types available are described in the Civilopedia section military units. After founding your first city, you may have the technology to build only 2 types of unit: militia and settlers. As you get new technology, you get new units. All military units and settlers have an attack factor, a defense factor, and a movement factor. Attack and defense indicate the army's relative strength when attacking and defending. The movement factor includes how far the unit may move. Each turn you may give orders to your units one at a time. The unit waiting for orders blinks on the map. There are several order options available. Move the units across the map up to the limit of its movement factor. Skip the unit if you prefer to move it later in the turn, or have it do nothing this turn. Most units may fortify or go on sentry duty. Fortified or sentry units no longer require orders. In future turns, they carry on and do not blink, waiting for orders. If you wish to move these units later, they must be activated individually. The cost to enter a map square depends on the terrain. Roads and railroads speed the movement of ground units. When a unit is unable to complete a movement order because it doesn't have enough movement, its movement is finished for the turn. The map dead center is on the next unit waiting for orders. Okay. Skipping units. To skip, press the wait key, which is W. To order unit not to move, press the no movement key. Okay. 45 units and those on sentry duty must be activated to receive movement orders. So you just click on them, okay. 45 or sentry units within a city must be activated from the city display. Sentry units are also activated when enemy units move adjacent to them. Ground units, all non-ship, air, or nuclear units, move normally only on land. They may move over sea squares, but only by naval transport. Ships may not enter squares entirely made up of land, except cities that are on the coast. Air units may move over lands and sea squares, but must land on a friendly city square or aircraft carrier unit to refuel. There's aircraft carriers? Damn. There's fuel for planes? Damn. Ground units may not move from one square adjacent to an enemy army or city directly to another such square. The prohibited square may be adjacent to the first enemy army, another army, even one from another civilization, or another enemy army. Okay, I see. So in this case, right, we can move our army onto our city, any of the bottom ones, but not up because it's adjacent to one of these. Because we're already adjacent to an enemy, so we cannot move here. And we cannot move here or here because these are adjacent to an enemy city. Okay. Our units, ship units, diplomats, and caravans ignore these restrictions. Okay. Naval transport. Ground units may be carried over sea squares only by triremes, sails, frigates, or transports. Units may load onto a ship by moving onto it from an adjacent land square. Also, units on sentry duty in a city with a ship automatically load when the ship leaves. Units aboard ship are on sentry duty. Units may unload when activated from sentry duty and adjacent to land. They can be activated with the normal method of activating, or by pressing the unload key if the transport ship is blinking. Combat. Combat occurs when a unit from one civilization attempts to enter a square occupied by a unit of another civilization. When this happens, a battle is immediately resolved, resulting in the destruction of one army or the other. When more than one unit is the defender square, the unit with the highest defensive strength defends. If it loses, then all other armies stacked with it are destroyed as well. Ooh. Successful attackers that have a full movement point remaining after combat advance into the defender square. The important factors in combat are the attack and defense strength of the combatants, the presence of veterans, the terrain occupied by the defender, and any defensive improvements in the square. If chariot, attack factor 4, attacks a phalanx, defense factor 2, the chariot has a 66% chance of winning, and the phalanx 33%. Okay, so they add attack and defense of attacker and defender, and then we just look at percentages. If they're veterans, the odds are 63. If both are veterans and the phalanx was behind city walls, which triples the defense factor, the odds are 69. What did they say? Did they say something about veteran? They didn't really explain what veteran means. I think it probably means you get an extra 50% defense if you're, or stats if you're a veteran. Because then it would be, to make this into a 6, it would be a +2. And to make this into a 3, it would be a +1. So that's probably it. And then the phalanx of Man City Walls, which triples, then its defense is 9. And so now it has 9 out of 15 chances to succeed, and 6 out of 15 chances to die. Okay. Bombardment, city attacks, and robbing enemy armies are special types of combat. Attack strength. The full strength is brought to bear as long as the army has at least one movement factor remaining for movement. If you don't have a full movement point, you may be penalized. Ooh, if you have more movement, you can actually make several attacks each turn at full strength. Well, the making an attack will either destroy the enemy or not. That's probably if you encounter multiple armies. Veteran army. Okay, there we go. Veteran armies have their attack and defense strength increased by 50% before any other modification. Armies become veterans when built at cities containing the barracks improvement, or they become veterans after winning a battle. Terrain will change the strength of defenders. If you fortify, increase your strength by 50%. If you're within a fortress, you have your strength doubled after all modifications. And if you're within a thing with city walls, you're actually tripled. When a defender in a city is destroyed by a ground attack, other defending units' presence are not destroyed. However, the population of the city is reduced by 1 point unless the city is protected by city walls. Okay. Naval units with attack factors such as submarines may attack enemy armies on adjacent land squares, including cities. Naval units in cities may defend against attacks. Nuclear attacks occur when a nuclear unit attempts to enter a square occupied by enemy units or an enemy city. In any case, all units, regardless of civilization, in the target square and adjacent square. Jeez, okay. Whew. Nuclear attack can only be stopped by the presence of an SDI defense improvement in a city. Jeez. Not sure how long it's going to take for us to actually get there, but man. Units may be given a number of other orders besides movement and combat caused by movement. Go to go to a specific square, continues moving turn after turn until it arrives. Home city, orders the unit to change its home city. Okay. Unit on sentry duty is marked by a faded icon on the map. It no longer blinks each turn waiting for orders. Sentry units are activated as explained above. They automatically board any transporting ship that leaves the city they occupy. But what does sentry duty do? I guess they automatically activate if an enemy unit ends up adjacent to them. Pillage, the sword destroys any terrain improvements present in the square the army occupies. Rolls and railroads are unaffected. Settlers. Settlers are a group of your most resourceful and adventurous citizens. As independent pioneers that perform two critical functions for your civilization, they found new cities and serve as engineers. To found a new city, move a settler to the desired location and press the build key, the B key on the IBM. The settler disappears because the people it represents have become the population of the new city. However, in the future, the new city can be ordered to produce more settlers that it can be used to found additional cities, of course. The build order can also be used to grow an existing city. Move a settler into an existing city and press the build key. It adds 1 point to population. This might be useful when one city is limited in its ability to expand. Oh, okay. Capped at 10 population points or more. Settlers can make a number of agricultural and industrial improvements for your civilization, acting as engineers. Place a settler in a square where the work is to be done, and press the correct key. Fortress, mining. Pollution. Build road or railroad. Diplomats are unique units that can be very useful to your civilization. They act as trade mission, ambassadors, envoys, free agents, and saboteurs. When you obtain the technology of writing, you can build diplomats. Enemy diplomats can be used against your civilization. We can move past enemies' armies without stopping, but if they come on us, we're destroyed. Diplomats are the only units that can enter defended enemy cities. We can spy, establish embassies, steal technology, industrial sabotage, incite a revolt, or meet with king. Spy on city, you get to examine which armies are defending it and what improvements have been made, and then lose the diplomat. Establish embassy. It's not necessary to establish an embassy once with any civilization. That's kind of important the first time. Steal technology. And then we lose the diplomat. If we have nothing new, or the diplomat just loses its turn. If you've already stolen from the city, the diplomat loses its turn. Industrial sabotage, you can destroy the item currently under production, or one of the city's improvements. You cannot control what is destroyed, and then we lose the diplomat as a result. Wonders are never destroyed, but this can still be useful because it can, if destroying temple and cathedrals or city walls or factories can really hamper a city. We can incite a revolt by paying money. If we actually start a revolt, Otherwise, this just moves out of the city. And then we can open negotiation with the enemy ruler, in which case the diplomat is not lost. We can also grab units, and if we succeed, we keep the diplomat and the new unit, and if we don't, we lose the diplomat. But this can only happen if there is only one enemy unit on one square. Caravans. Caravans are shipments of trade goods and material, over time to represent camel caravans, wagon trains, truck convoys, and cargo containers. They may be used to establish trade routes between cities or to transfer resources for the construction of wonders of the world. They become available once you've achieved the technology of trade. A caravan that enters any city of another civilization or a friendly city 10 or more squares away may establish a trade route. This results in immediate cash payment for delivery plus an increase in the trade generated each turn. This means more luxuries, taxes, and signs for your home city. Each city may have up to 3 functioning trade routes. If more are established, only the best 3 function. Bigger cities generate more trade. Trade is best with a city in another civilization. Next best are friendly cities. The further apart the cities, the better the trade. The caravan may contribute its construction costs and resources to the cost of building any wonder of the world by moving the caravan into the city where the wonder is being built. Military units. The following are the military units that can be built by your civilization. There is a brief description of each unit, including any special abilities. The 3 numbers shown after the unit's name are the attack, defense, and movement factors. Parentheses are the names shown. After the name is shown, the advance required before each unit can be built. Brackets shown is the number of resources it takes to build each unit. So armor tanks, artillery. This is not very helpful to read through, though. Nuclear 99016. A missile weapon armor with a nuclear warhead. The nuclear may move between cities and carriers. It is lost if it does not end its turn into a city or carrier and does not attack. It explodes when it attacks an enemy unit or city, destroys all military units in target square and adjacent square regardless of who they belong to. Jeez. This would be more useful if they gave it to us by ages, sort of, but... A group of tanks, best units for ground campaigns. Artillery, which stops the defenders being tripled, which is nice. Battleship, may conduct shore bombardment, may not carry ground units. Bomber. Bombers may stay airborne for 1 turn, but must return to a base, a friendly city or carrier, by the end of the 2nd turn. They have a visibility of 2 squares over any terrain. They ignore city walls in the same manner as artillery. They may only be attacked by fighters. Other units may not enter a square occupied by a bomber, so they're useful for interdicting enemy movement. Okay, so once you get flight, that's really the strategy, huh? Carrier, cannon. A group of carriage-mounted smooth-bore cannons. Cannons are excellent units on the attack, and their arrival often opens a new round of offensive wars, especially when accompanied by the riflemen who can stack with them for defense. Right, because they have very strong attack, but very shit defense. A rifleman with a defense of 5. What's the highest defense? Mechanized infantry, but that's like late game. Carrier, but that's of course late game. Cruiser, this is like a water thing. Yeah, riflemen have the best defense, except for the armor tank. Carrier is an aircraft carrier. They may carry up to 8 air units and have a visibility of 2 sea squares. Oh, this is a sea base. Okay. Catapult. Useful in defense and attack of cities, but are weak when left alone on defense. Cavalry. Useful as scouts and raiders because of their speed. Speed of 2 doesn't seem that fast, but if everything else is speed of 1 at a time. Chariot. Better than cavalry. Yeah, I don't know why you would bother with cavalry when chariots are better than them in any way. And the wheel has to be a very early technology anyway. Fighters must return to a friendly base by the end of each turn. Frigate. May carry up to 4 ground units. Ironclad. Steam power ship. May not carry units useful for attacking enemy ships and less so for conducting shore bombardments. Knights are a combination of speed, defensive strength, and offensive strength. Legion. Good offensive units, relatively inexpensive. Mechanized infantry. Militia is just the base. Musketeers, a company of infantry armed with muskets. High defense factors, they're good to replace phalanxes. In positions that need to be defended once we get gunpowder. Phalanx is... Okay, so Phalanx is defensive. Legion is offensive. Chariots are offensive. What? No. But they have a shorter movement. Okay. So because chariots move faster, you probably want them to go on their own for attack purposes. Then you want to build an army that has one rifleman, one legion, one rifleman, one legion, one rifleman, one legion, and so forth. Or phalanx, legion, phalanx, legion, phalanx, legion. Then when you get gunpowder, you want to turn the phalanx into musketeers, and when you get conscription, you want to turn the musketeers into riflemen. Whereas the legion probably turn into knights at some point. Yeah, it's like the chariot and the legion sort of get subsumed by the knights when you get chivalry. Submarine, attack from underwater torpedoes. They may not carry ground units. Transport, a big transport ship. Trireme, it's a small going ocean ship powered by oars. Triremes are left at sea approximately half the time when they are not adjacent to land at the end of a turn. They are normally the first ship that becomes available and thus are very useful for exploring the sea and transporting diplomats, caravans, and other units to nearby continents. Though you definitely want to upgrade them to sail as soon as you get navigation. And then from sail to frigate. And then you can get all the modern stuff. Alright. Barbarians are small tribes of raiders that are not part of any opposing civilization. For the IBM version, they are as red units. You may encounter them periodically as your civilization begins to expand and grow. They may invade from the sea or arise suddenly in unsettled parts of any continent. Barbarians may attempt to capture or destroy your cities and pillage your fields and mines. Because barbarians may appear along any coast or in any unsettled areas, It is important to defend cities. It may also be useful to screen your cities from unsettled areas so that any barbarians may appear may be intercepted before they reach your cities. Barbarian leaders look like diplomats. Sea raiders. Barbarians that invade from the sea are looking for a place to settle. They search for cities and attempt to capture them. They do not pillage mines and irrigation because of their interest in making a permanent settlement. Sure, because you programmed them so, but sure. If they capture a city, they take it over and begin producing more units to make new assaults. Ooh. Land barbarians. These raiders are only interested in loot, not permanent settlements. It makes them very harmful as they pillage any mines or irrigation they encounter. If they capture one of your cities, they utterly destroy it, so they are best engaged as far from your cities as possible. They arise in areas that are not within the radius of the city. As time passes, they appear at even farther distances from civilization, which means eventually you just remove the threat of barbarians appearing because the entire area has become more or less civilized by the presence of your cities. Okay, we can ransom barbarian leaders, which I guess is nice. Governments. To assist the management of your civilization, there is a system of government. There are 6 types of government possible, but the ones available to you at any moment depend on the technology that your civilization has achieved. One type of government, anarchy, only occurs under a special circumstance. When beginning a new game, your civilization is automatically governed by despotism. The additional types become available when the specific civilization advance bearing their name is made. Exception, see the pyramids, page 84. We got despotism, anarchy, monarchy, communism, the republic, democracy. The republic. Despotism, you rule by absolute power. Production is at a minimum, but your total control makes conducting war relatively easy. Military units do not require resource support until the number of units making their home city exceeds the number of people in the city. Each home military unit in excess of the number of people requires 1 unit of resources for industrial support, except for diplomats and caravans. In addition, any map square that produces 3 or more food, resources, or trade has this production reduced by 1. So, less production. Settlers require 1 food for support. Anarchy. You've temporarily lost control of government. Cities continue to operate on their own, but some important operations of your civilization come to a halt until control is restored. You're able to continue controlling the movement of your units. Anarchy is the same effect as despotism, except no tax revenue is collected, no maintenance is charged for city improvements, and no scientific research is done. Monarchy. Your rule is less absolute and more with the acceptance of the people, especially an aristocracy of upper-class citizens. The aristocratic classes at least have a certain amount of economic freedom, and this results in the potential for greater production of resources, food, and trade. However, the upper classes deduct a share of your civilization's production as maintenance for military units and luxuries in the larger cities. Under a monarchy, there is no reduction of production in squares that produce 3 or more units of food. Irrigation of grasslands and rivers, plus mining of hills can now pay off with increased production. All military units must be supported by 1 unit of resources. Settlers require 2 food for support. Communism. You're the head of the communistic government and rule with support of the controlling party. Although this form of government allows more production than despotism, the orthodoxy of the party restricts personal and economic freedom, limiting trade. On the plus side, corruption is kept to a minimum by the action of the local party apparatus. Same as monarchy, but corruption is flat. Instead of increasing, the farther cities located from the palace of your cities suffer the same rate of corruption. The Republic. You rule over an assembly of city-states formed by the cities that your civilization has established. Each city is an autonomous state, yet is also part of the republic that you rule. The people feel that you rule at their request. They have a great deal of personal and economic freedom, which results in greatly increased trade. Your diplomacy is reviewed by the Senate, and they can override your decisions. Grasslands, rivers, and hills are as productive as they are under a monarchy. An additional trade unit is generated when at least 1 trade unit already exists. Military units each require 1 resource for industrial support. Settlers require 2 food. Each military unit not in its home city makes 1 citizen unhappy. In addition, the Senate of your government accepts any peace offer made by another civilization, overriding even a desire for war by you. Democracy. You rule as the elected executive of a democracy. The people feel that you rule because they want you to. The degree of freedom allowed under this government results in maximum opportunity for economic growth and trade. However, the people also have a very strong voice in determining how much economic production is devoted to improving the standard of living. The Senate has to review some diplomatic decisions. There is no corruption in democracy. If one or more of your cities are in civil disorder for 2 turns, there is a chance each turn thereafter that a revolution may occur. Each military unit is not in its home city makes 2 citizens unhappy. Governments are changed by the process of revolution. This normally occurs at your command because you wish to change the type of government more suitable to your plans. You may change your civilization's government type to any for which you have made the correct advance. To cause revolution, pull down the game menu and choose the option Revolution. After a few turns of anarchy, a menu appears to list the government options available to your civilization. The new government goes into effect immediately after you make your choice. If your civilization possesses the pyramid, you may change governments without passing through anarchy. The ability is lost after the pyramids become obsolete. So, Republic is probably the best one, right? Because it's got all the pros of monarchy. I guess it still has corruption, but early on it's probably not as big of a deal. Yeah, I think democracy or republic is probably the more stable of these. It's interesting because I don't know why you would. Once you found one, I don't know why you would pick any other, and I would suspect that republic, monarchy, and democracy are all pretty much available right from the bat. But Advisors World Reports. You always have a staff of advisors available who can provide you with detailed information concerning the affairs of your civilization. By consulting with these advisors, you can make informed decisions about the management of your cities and relations with other civilizations. The reports of these advisors can be obtained from the advisors menu found on the menu bar at the map display. In addition, there are a number of other reports that can be consulted. These are available from the World menu on the menu bar. City status, military intelligence, attitude, trade science, and then the world report. Okay. City status reports the cities, then shows what they are producing, population size, amount of food, resources, and trade. Okay. Same thing with a military advisor. You can see how many units of each type we have and we're producing. Casualties taken and inflicted. Okay. The Aztec ironclad is kind of funny. Intelligence advisor is a summary of information from the embassies, capital, government, treasury, and diplomatic status. Who's at war, who's at peace. If you click the info button, you can get some more information about the goals of the leader and the advances that they have made most recently. The attitude is about the happiness of our citizens to help with the luxury rate and stuff. The trade, how much the trade is being directed via to different things. Okay. Also displays to sort of see whether our treasury is shrinking or increasing. Science keeps track of the technologies that we have and the progress towards the next advance. And then the wonders just list the wonders. There's 7 ancient, 7 medieval, and 7 modern. Knowing where they are may be useful because capturing the city where a wanderer is located adds to the glory of your civilization. The geographer's list shows the wanderer's location, the icon, the name, and the civilization that built it. And then there's, top 5 cities, civilization scores, world map, spaceships, space race begins once the Apollo program Wonder of the World has been constructed. Thereafter, any civilization that has the required technologies may begin building parts of a spaceship. Once the space race begins, it's important to maintain a watch on the spaceships of your rivals. You need to assess when they are likely to launch so that you can plan the size of your own ship and its launch date. If you conclude that your ship construction is too far behind to catch up, it may be necessary to mount a military campaign to capture the enemy capital. Capturing the enemy capital cancels the enemy spaceship under construction. Oh, good to know. And then the demographics. Personal rating, population, general GNP, land area. Some of these, I don't know what they matter. Like, why does the literacy percent of our population matters in game? I mean, of course. Civilopedia. Civilopedia is an online encyclopedia of civilization. It includes reference information over 150 items of significance in the game. For most items, there's a 2-page entry. The first page is a description of the item and its historical importance. The second page explains its use in the game. Advances, city improvements, military units, terrain tabs, miscellaneous. Okay. One cost of heedless industrial growth is the gradual polluting and poisoning of the environment. One of the many dangers posed by pollution, the greatest may be the global warming. An unchecked rise in the planet's atmospheric temperature threatens catastrophic geographic changes, including melting polar ice caps, rising sea levels, and parched farmlands. As you steer your civilization into the industrial age, you must manage your cities to minimize pollution and prevent global warming. Different kinds of poisoning may occur when nuclear weapons are used or nuclear reactors melt down. We're probably not going to encounter pollution for a long time, so let's just keep over this for now. Diplomacy is conducted by negotiations between yourself and a ruler or a rival civilization. Negotiations may occur when a rival sends an envoy to talk or may result from overtures of your own. Diplomacy is conducted face-to-face with one rival ruler at a time and can lead to exchanges of technology, offers of peace, international extortion, or declarations of war. A rival may contact you when units from each of your civilizations are adjacent to each other. A rival envoy may also arrive at any time. You may start negotiations by sending a diplomat into a rival city and selecting the option to meet with the king. The tone and result of any negotiations are greatly influenced by the mood of your rival. The opposing leader may be antagonistic, supplicating, or somewhere in between. It depends on the personality of the leader and how your two civilizations compare to each other and to the rest of the world. You may be able to pick up cues on a rival's mood from facial expressions and background music. A rival leader's personality may be aggressive, friendly, or neutral. Aggressive leaders are more likely to lean towards war or demand high payments for peace. Friendly leaders are more likely to offer peace and may only be bluffing when asking for payment. If you have broken previous peace agreements with the civilization, this is remembered and also influences the degree of antagonism. If you're the largest, most powerful, and richest civilization in the world, or rivals are likely to be very jealous or antagonistic. However, if the opponent is puny in comparison, the natural tendency toward being belligerent may be overridden. All negotiations end either with an agreement of peace or a declaration of war. Civilizations that are not extremely antagonistic may offer to trade technology. They begin by offering one that you don't possess. They may actually have several you lack. If you agree on any of technology, they can trade a peer, select the one that you want, and then they take one from you. You have no choice regarding what they take and cannot veto the trade. If after trading another exchange is possible, more trading may take place. The rival may demand cash payment or civilization advance during negotiation. If you meet this demand, the rival almost certainly agrees to peace. If you reject the demand, an antagonistic rival generally declares war. The demand of a more peaceful or threat rival may only be a bluff, and peace may be offered afterward anyway if demands are rejected. Once you agree to a peace treaty, you have an opportunity for further negotiations. The menu opens offering 3 choices: a declaration of harmony, a military proposal, or a demand for tribute. The declaration of harmony has no real effect. A military proposal is a suggestion by you for your new friends to attack a third party. Discuss a cash payment, which you can pay or turn down. And the third option is a demand for tribute to cement the new treaty you have signed. If your opponent is weak or in awe of your power, he may pay. Alternatively, he may refuse to pay or go so far as to declare war on you. Peace between your civilization and another can only result from diplomacy. If your and rival agree, then a state of peace can occur. Choosing peace is voluntary unless your government is a republic or democracy. In those cases, the Senate or the government overrules any decision for war and accepts peace. Peace agreements can normally be broken at any time by either party, but so long as it holds, both parties must adhere to the following rules. Units of the other civilization, even diplomats, may not be attacked. No units except diplomats and caravans may enter squares that have been improved by the other party within the radius of a city. Squares that the other party is under development may not be pillaged, and technology may not be stolen from the other party. Any of these events ends the peace and triggers war. You are warned that you are about to break a peace and have a chance to check your action. If a government is a republic or a democracy, you may not voluntarily violate a peace agreement. The Senate forbids any action that starts war. If you consider war necessary, you must have a revolution to overthrow the government and put in one more receptive to your wishes. Alternatively, you may wait for your opponent to break the peace himself or declare war on you. Oh, that's the downside of republic or democracy. Well, we might still be able to declare war the first time. But if we have a peace treaty, then they won't be okay with it. The major benefit of peace is that you are not at war. You don't say. The space race. The environmental pressures of growing population in the modern world are forcing humans to look into space for resources and living room. The question is not whether humans are to travel to the stars, but when. The final act of stewardship you can perform for your civilization is to ensure that they lead the exodus. As noted earlier, the history of your civilization ends when either you or one of your rivals reaches a nearby star systems with colonists. If your spaceship is the first to arrive, you receive a bonus to your civilization score in recognition of this final accomplishment. Regardless of how many colonists your spaceship is carrying or how fast it is, if a rival makes planetfall first, you receive no bonus. The construction of spaceships may not begin until one civilization has built the Apollo program wonder. Thereafter, the race is on, and any civilization that has acquired necessary advances may begin building parts of a spaceship. Each civilization may only build one spaceship at a time. Once it is launched, another one cannot be built and sent off. Ships that have been launched may not be recalled or turned around. Spaceships are destroyed if the owning civilization's capital is captured. In this case, a new ship may be constructed. The purpose of your spaceship is to carry as many colonists as possible to another star system. To have any chance of success, it must provide at least a minimum of the following: living space for colonists, food sources, energy sources, propulsion power, and fuel for the engines. The better prepared the spaceship, the higher the number of colonists that arrive safely, and the faster the voyage. Your goal is to build a spaceship that can hold as many colonists as possible, yet travel at a reasonable speed with a reasonable probability of success. As construction of your ship proceeds, keep an eye on its characteristics displayed to the right of the spaceship window. All spaceships have the same characteristics: population, food, energy, mass, fuel, flight time, and probability of success. Once you have built a spaceship that meets the minimum requirements for carrying colonists, you may launch or proceed with further construction to increase the capacity of the ship. Population, support, energy, mass, fuel, flight time, probability of success. Energy is the percentage of energy required by the life support modules. Mass is just greater the mass, the more power you're going to need. Fuel is the percentage of fuel that you currently aboard. So more fuel just increases speed. Flight time is the number of years required for your spaceship to reach the nearest star system. Add more engines and more fuel. Probability of success is it's based on the amount of food and energy provided plus the flight time. So you need to. So if support goes below 100%, the people that counts will just die. Damn. Your ship is constructed of parts. Each part is built like any other improvement, except that when a part is completed, it is automatically added to your ship. The parts of the spaceship come in 3 types: components, modules, and structures. Each type is available for construction when you have achieved a specific technological advance. All modules and components must be connected to a sufficient structure. If a modular component is not connected, it is marked, outlined in red, to signal the part is not working. Once enough parts have been milled, the red outline disappears. Plastics is necessary. You build components that cost 160 resources. There's propulsion components and fuel. One fuel component must be provided for each propulsion. The modules require robotics and are 320 resources each. Habitation, life support, and solar panel. So, I mean, you need the life support to ensure that they survive, the solar panel to ensure that the other two types of modules have energy, and the habitation is just how many people you can fit. So, you figure out the proportions and just build those. And then the structure itself costs 80 resources each to build. You must build enough structure parts to connect the components and modules together. Ooh, okay. Cities. The economic and industrial centers of your civilizations are its cities. They are the residence of the population, the source of tax dollars, the home to your scientists, and the sites of your industrial production. Each city organizes the development of the area surrounding it, converting the nearby agricultural land, natural resources, and potential trade into food, industrial production, technology, and cash. One measure of the success of your civilization is the number of cities it encompasses and the size of each. Larger cities collect more taxes, conduct more technology research, and produce new items faster. Small civilizations, both in numbers of cities and the sizes of each, risk being overrun by larger and more powerful neighbors. Falling too far behind in the arms race, both in quality and quantity, may result in an early exit from history. The management of your civilization involves the founding of cities, their management, and their protection. New cities can be built from scratch or captured from rivals. Managing a city requires maintaining a balance of food, industry, taxes, luxuries, and improvements that keeps the citizens content and productive. Rival civilizations are a constant threat to the security of your cities. After taking steps to protect them, consider conquering cities of your rivals. This reduces the threat they pose and is often an inexpensive way to expand. New cities can be acquired in 3 ways. They can be started from scratch. A minor tribe discovered by your armies may elect to join you, or you can conquer the armies of your neighbors. Settler, okay. Minor tribes, we really have no encounter on that. And capturing cities, you destroy the defenders, move into the city and capture it. And then it's just one of our cities. Though occupying an enemy city may destroy some improvements the city has built and eliminates 1 point of population. So if the city only has 1 point of population remaining, it is destroyed. Okay. When building a new city, plan carefully where it is placed. The map square in which it is built and the square surrounding it determine how valuable the city can become. Factors to be considered include the economic value of the square the city is placed in, the economic potential within the city's radius, the proximity of other cities, and the strategic value of the location. Ideally, locate cities in areas that offer a combination of food for population growth, resources for production, and trade. Where possible, take advantage of the presence of special resources square. The terrain the city occupies is especially important because it is always under development. You cannot take workers off of the square when adjusting development on the city map. If this area is not useful, especially for producing food, then population growth in a new city is handicapped. For this reason, new cities are generally thus built on plains, grasslands, or rivers, because they're the best food production and thus faster population growth. The city radius. The potential area of development extends out from a city 2 squares on the map in every direction except diagonally. If the city grows large enough, its population can bring all this area into development. When planning a new city, consider this radius and the long-term benefits of any potential site. 2 squares in every direction except diagonally. So it's like, okay, it's like a cross with the extra 4 diagonals filled in. Okay. To grow, the city must encompass sufficient food-growing areas. Any city that can grow has value, but your most important cities are those that also have resources available. These cities can quickly build and support military units and wonders. Hills and forests are important sources of resources, as are squares containing special resource symbols for game, horses, coal, and oil. The importance of trade and generating text and technology makes river squares especially good sites for cities when just beginning. Without rivers, you must quickly build roads in plains or grassland to generate trade. Landscaping. When surveying sites for a new city, keep in mind the potential for some squares to be improved. Hills and mountains can be mined and then produce increased resources. Plain rivers and grasslands can be irrigated and produce more food. Swamps and jungles can be cleared into grasslands or converted to forest. Forests may be cleared into plains. Plains and grasslands may be turned into forest if you need resources. An area of jungle and swamps looks barren at first, but has the potential to be a very rich city site. Plains, grasslands, and deserts produce trade once penetrated by roads, and all land squares improve in production while railroads come through. Another consideration when planning new cities is the current or potential location of other cities. Minimize the economic radius overlap of your cities as much as possible. Since a map area may only be used by one city, too much overlap restricts the potential growth of one or both cities. When just beginning, explore nearby lands as soon as possible to begin planning the placement of future cities to best take advantage of the terrain. A few large and powerful cities are more useful than several smaller, weaker ones. Strategic value. The strategic value of a city's site is a final consideration. Because the underlying terrain can increase the defender's strength when under attack, in some circumstances the defensive value of terrain may be more important than the economic value. But a good defensive terrain is generally poor for food production and inhibits the early growth of a city. However, defending a city is generally easier than defending normal terrain. In a city, you can build a city walls improvement, which triples the strength of defenders. Also in cities, only one army at a time is destroyed in combat. Outside of cities, all armies stacked together are destroyed when any army in the stack is defeated. So in certain cases where continent bottlenecks and a rival is on the other side, the defensive value of a city site may be more critical than economic value. Placing at least a few cities on the seacoast gives you access to the ocean. This allows the launching of ship units to explore the world and transport their units overseas. With few coastal cities, your sea power is constrained. There are several goals for management of a city: keeping it stable, avoiding civil disorder, keeping its population growing, maximizing a useful mix of economic development, food resources and trade, providing tax revenue, producing technology research, and producing useful units and improvements. Okay, you want to keep people in order, if possible. Because you get no tax revenue, no technology research, no food surpluses, and no production. You also don't want a nuclear reactor to be in a city unhappy because it can melt down. Each new worker brings a new map square under production. Population growth increases economic power and thus the strength of your civilization. The people of your city that work in the surrounding countryside harness the economic resources of the area. Those resources are converted by the city into more people, blah blah blah. There may be a time when increased industrial output is preferred over population growth. There may be times when increased trade is needed. You can give orders to your advisors to shift the city's workforce around to change the mix of economic development as desired. Money is useful for speeding industrial production, bribing enemy armies, and stuff. The combined tax revenues of your cities must exceed their maintenance requirements before cash can accumulate for other uses. Although it is not necessary for each city to produce surplus revenue, enough cities must do so to cover expenses. Some cities may not be especially suited for industrial production, but may still be good trading centers. Manage these cities to produce extra revenue. The greater contribution of research each city makes toward new technology, the faster the utilization advances reached, of course. Each city has more or less capacity to produce new units and improvements. The most valuable cities have the greatest industrial capacity. They can quickly produce expensive military units that can extend the power of your civilization. You're also best at producing wonders of the world. You must regularly monitor the production of your cities to ensure that most needed items are being built. There are 4 main tools available to reach and maintain these goals of city management: shifting workers around, converting some workers to specialists, building improvements, and building wonders. Workers can be shifted around when the city map displayed to adjust economic development. Specialists can be created to increase production of luxuries, taxes, or technology. A temple makes some unhappy people content. A granary speeds population growth. Library increases research. This is all a list of city improvements. Great economic management of a city is worthless if the city is captured by rivals or barbarians. Part of the management plan must concern the defense of the city. A large part of the defense is not handled locally, but on your borders and coasts. A defensive line of units, both at sea and on land, can intercept enemies before they close with your cities can be helpful. Even the best defensive lines can be penetrated, so the defense of the city itself cannot be neglected. The minimum city defense is one army, preferably one with a good defense factor. Fortifying the armies that you expect to defend the city, because fortified units increase their defense strength. A second defender is often a good idea. Adding an army with a strong attack factor is also useful. This army can attack enemies that move adjacent to the city, perhaps destroying them before they test the defenders. The defense of the city can be improved by the city walls, as we know. When Civilization Advanced gives you new army types, replace old defenders with better units. I guess that's probably why there's the disband option, because they won't automatically upgrade and you have to disband them. Linking cities with roads and railroads can be helpful in speeding the movement of units. When unhappy people outnumber happy people, we get civil disorder, which no tax revenue, blah blah blah, we talked about that. You may pay to complete an improvement, such a temple that can convert sufficient unhappy people to contentment. You can change luxury and tax rates to restore order. Increasing luxuries may convert some content people to happy. You may take one or more people out of the workforce, making them specialists. This increases the number of happy people. And if you're a despotism, monarchy, or communism, you can also using martial law, which each military unit in a city makes one unhappy citizen content. Oof. Whereas if you're a Republican or Democratic government, the opposite is true. When a city is sufficiently happy, it may hold a celebration in honor of your rule. The people declare a We Love the King Day in thanks for the prosperity you have made possible. And this will do something. For anarchy, nothing will do. For despotism, the celebrating city is operated as if the government is monarchy, which increases the food and resources generated. If you're in monarchy or communism, you behave as if you were in a democracy. And if you're in a republic or democracy, then you just get a lot more people. This also shows to me that republic and democracy are really meant to be sort of like the best options, period. Alright, city display. You got population roster, the resources window, the troops for whom this is the home city, food storage, information window, production box, and the improvement roster. Alright. This shows the map square surrounding the city that may be developed by the city's population. The maximum number of squares that the city may put in development equals the number of people plus 1, but the additional 1 is always the city square itself. Note that it is possible to have more population than places to put them to work. Depending on the type of terrain in the map square, putting people to work there may generate food, resources, or trade. Crane, shield, arrows. When squares produce a combination of items, you may move people from one square to another to change the mix. People removed from the city map are temporarily converted into specialists in the population roster. When they are put back to work, they turn into normal people. So when you get new people, they're automatically assigned, so you may wish to review them. If you get the symbol, it's in use. If you don't get the symbol, it's not in use. Oh, so it's actually more of a I thought it was more like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kind of pattern, but no, you get like a 3x3 cross essentially. Okay. See your resources. You get food, resources, trade with surpluses after breaks, luxuries, revenue, science, research. Okay. And then improvements can augment the number of things. A population point requires 2 units of food each turn. If you produce more food than that, the surplus is shown after a break in the food line. The excess goes into the food storage box. Boom. If you don't produce enough, then it's on the right of the break line. Existing settlers that the city has produced also require some new food units per turn. Resources are, of course, what you use to build stuff. If the city's industrial capacity is not sufficient to maintain existing units for which this is the home city, the amount of resources you're short is shown to the resource line as a shortfall. If the resources available are not sufficient to maintain all existing units, then units not maintained are destroyed wherever they exist. Diplomats and caravans are free. You can increase them with factory, manufacturing plant, power plant, nuclear plant, or hydro plant. And the Hoover Dam Wonder improves the resources for all the cities. Trade is produced by roads through plains and grass, by rivers, by oceans, lakes, by squares containing gold mines or gems, and by caravan trade routes. So you should probably just put a road in every plain or grassland that you can to create more trade. Yeah. Luxuries are diamond. For every 2 diamonds of luxuries produced, 1 content citizen becomes happy. Tax revenue. Okay, yep. Science. And corruption is just basically taking trade away from you. I guess we don't. Oh, there it is. Yeah, okay. After the break. So there's a surplus of resources and food, but there's no surplus in trade, there's just corruption. Population roster. Happy, unhappy, specialists. Okay. When a city increases in size, you want to make sure that things are balanced. Specialists. People taken off the workforce and removed from the city map become specialists. These people no longer directly contribute to the food resources and trade the city generates, but they may be useful in adjusting the amount of luxuries, taxes, and science the city generates. If your city is producing sufficient food, you may be able to afford specialists and their special abilities. They do require food like other people. Entertainers keep people happy. Taxman make tax collection more efficient. Scientists increase the city's contribution towards new technology. Okay. Pretty straightforward. Entertainer seems to be the basis. You can change entertainer into taxman by clicking them. You can change a taxman into a scientist by clicking them. I assume this just says you can convert scientists back to entertainer. So you just keep clicking until you get what you want. Alright. It's a surplus. We'll put it in the storage box stored and accumulates each turn. When it overflows, the city's population grows by 1 point. The storage box is empty and we start again. Granular improvement has the effect of speeding production growth. The storage box only half empties when it overflows, and it creates more people. Okay. The box empties only to the granary line. In addition, the granary protects the city from starvation during a famine disaster. Then there's the production, where you see what's being produced. Change. Because the production box grows or shrinks depending on the number of resources required to build each item, so you just gotta fill the box. You may rush completion of a partially built item by paying it to complete it immediately by using the buy button. It's at least $2 per missing resource. They're only available at the beginning of the next turn, so there's no point in rushing something if it's the last turn of building. Pirate raids also destroy the partially completed item in the production box. The only defense against them is building the barracks improvement. Then you can see the list of all the improvements you have, and you can sell them if you want. It's pretty straightforward. You can see the number of resources and food required by the units that you've built. Under the Republican democracy, each supported unit not in the home city causes one or more population point to become unhappy. Okay. You see the units defending city, pollution indicators, trade routes, happy button, map button, view button. You sort of, I guess, change what you're seeing. Oh, you can see the effect of luxuries, improvements, martial laws, or wonders to the thing, the population happiness. Map calls a small version of the world map for reference. View, it's a bird's eye view of the city. Info is what we see here, the units defending the city, pollution indicators, and all of that. Population happiness chart. The second row is the luxuries provided by the city. Two units of luxuries when one content person happy or one unhappy person content. Content people get made happy before unhappy people are made content. And the improvements. I guess it's nice that they break it down, but it really means that ultimately at the end of the day, the last row is the only one that matters. Yeah, it's just the bottom row that matters, which is the same as the population roster at the top of the display. City improvements are the commercial, bureaucratic, educational, and public works infrastructure that make large and efficient cities possible. The potential size of a city is limited by inadequate provision of these facilities. The dense population of New York is made possible by the subway system. Los Angeles is located in the desert and brings much of its water from sources hundreds of miles away. Yeah, that's a pretty terrible thing. You only normally can build a barracks. As you acquire new technologies, more improvements become possible. Each city may only build one of each improvement. Once built, they may be destroyed by sabotage, disaster, and capture, and may be sold for cash. An alphabetical list of improvements. Okay, it's not too long. Let's go through it. Aqueduct. You need an aqueduct to go past 10 population points and prevents fire and plague. Bank increases luxuries and taxes generated by city by 50%. That's nice. You must already have a marketplace though, which does the same thing. I guess it doubles. The bank ultimately doubles. Barracks starts you at veteran, prevents the disaster of pirate. But they become obsolete and disappear when you get gunpowder and combustion. Oh, so you build them, gunpowder to become obsolete, you rebuild them, combustion they become obsolete, you rebuild them. Okay. Cathedral, It just makes people more happy. City walls is, of course, the defense bonus. Prevents floods, so that's pretty good. Coliseum is a large stadium. It makes 3 unhappy people content. Courthouse reduces corruption. Factory increases the amount generated, the resources generated by 50%. Granary, you only lose 50% of your store of food when you increase your population. Hydro plant, that's just a bonus for the factory. Library increases the knowledge production by 50%. Manufacturing plant doubles the resources of the city, but that's the late game thing. Mass transit, the population has no effect on pollution. Otherwise, automobile, when you get the auto advance, it's gonna mess up. Nuclear plant. The palace. The farther any city is from a city containing your palace, the more corruption is likely. You may relocate. You may build your palace in another city, but it causes the retirement of the first palace and relocation of the government. Alright. Recycling drops pollution. SDI defends from nuclear units. Temple is sort of the base. If you have mysticism 2, it makes 2 people that are unhappy content. And the university increases knowledge. Okay, pretty straightforward. Wonder is a dramatic, uninspiring accomplishment. It's typically a great achievement of engineering, science, or the arts, representing a milepost in the history of humankind. Each wonder is unique, existing only in the city where it is constructed. And then each of them gives you benefits. They only apply to a civilization that possesses them. But they can be conquered by other populations. The ancient wonders and the Middle Age wonders do not necessarily hold until the very end. Colossus increases trade in every city. Map squared is already generating some trade. Stops working after electricity. Great library gives you any technology that 2 other civilizations have acquired. It stops working after university. Great Wall. Other civilizations always offer peace. However, it stops working after gunpowder. Hanging Gardens results in +1 happy citizens in each of your cities, but it stops with invention. Lighthouse increases sea movement by 1 for all, but it stops about when magnetism is discovered. Oracle doubles the effect of your temples, but stops after you develop religion. Pyramids. You get to change government for free without anarchy. And you may select any type of new government, not just those for which you have made the correct advance. Ooh. It feels like pyramids is definitely the wonder to go for at the beginning. Like, by the time communism comes around, I mean, just being able to create it so you can get democracy early on, or republic early on, might be the thing. Copernicus Observatory doubles knowledge production in a city. Just in the one city? Seems like it. Stops working after automobile. Darwin's Voyage. You immediately get 2 civilization advances. So this is a nice one to get because you just get 2 technologies for free. Okay. Isaac Newton's College, which is really just a way of saying Cambridge University, I guess. Increases knowledge to all libraries and universities. Stops working after nuclear fission. Geospax Cathedral decreases unhappy citizens by 2 per city. And it does not expire, so that's also a good one. Magellans Expedition increases sea movement. It depends on the game you're playing, I guess. It also never expires, so there's that. Michelangelo's Chapel means the cathedrals. It increases the benefits of cathedrals to your civilization until communism diminishes the strength of religion. And finally, Shakespeare's Theatre. All unhappy people in a city are content until electronics makes the theater obsolete. Again, it seems to apply to only one city. A poll program, of course, is necessary. Cure for cancer creates 1 plus 1 happy citizen in every city. Hoover Dam. Seems like, if somebody else is making the Apollo, the Hoover Dam is probably the one you want to go for. Manhattan Project is for the nuclear weapons, so honestly, the longer you wait on it, the better, probably. SETI increases the knowledge generated by your cities by 50%. Women's suffrage. If a unit is away from home, you create 1 less unhappy citizen than normal for a civilization that possesses women's suffrage. And then the United Nations, they always offer to make peace with you. There's disasters, things can happen, things will always try to happen. I don't know that there's any point reading about them. Earthquake is near hills, destroys 1 city improvement. Famine can be prevented by a granary and reduces your population. Fire can be prevented by aqueduct and destroys 1 city improvement. Flood can be prevented by city wall and reduces city population. This doesn't feel like a disaster, more by just like pirates coming, but they steal food and whatever is being built in a production box. Plague is prevented by medicine or by aqueduct and reduces the city population. Volcano, if you're adjacent to a mountain or on mountain terrain, it can be negated by a temple. Okay, what's left? So I guess we have a list of all the technologies, is what this is, huh? Or a treatise on civilization, but let's maybe read it. And leader biographies. Oh, I guess there's a sentence about what each civilization does. And some general player notes and designer notes. Oh, and that's the end, okay. Okay, so the dynamics of civilization. Introduction. Historian Will Durant describes 4 necessary elements of civilization: economic provision, food, shelter, and clothing; political organization, government; moral traditions, and the pursuit of knowledge and the arts. A society possessing these 4 elements is a civilization. A society lacking one or more remains primitive. Economic provision, the first of these elements, is the most important. Steady and relatively abundant food supplies mean permanent living places are possible. Time is available for thinking and making improvements. Better tools, better homes, better agricultural techniques, useful new inventions, art, music, etc. The result over time is a gradual, albeit fitful, increasing diversity in culture and knowledge. Good food-producing areas bring unprecedented human populations together, and desegregation creates a need for government. Governments provide the necessary decision-making process. As villages grow into towns and then into cities, more and more decisions are required. If the decision process does not work, hostility or disaster might tear apart the group. Oral traditions provide a code of behavior that allows the group to stay together while minimizing friction between members. The code tells everyone how to act and what to expect from others. It is a set of rules for living in harmony, regulating marriages, setting sexual norms, defining vices, etc. Handed down generations after generation, the rules become second nature. The moral tradition of most civilizations includes religion. The great religions that have survived through ages are those that offer reasonable moral traditions for living. Religions that failed often preach an inharmonious or destructive tradition. In some cases, a significant factor in failure of a civilization was a flawed religion. The pursuit of knowledge is a function of the spare time made possible by efficient food production, language, inventiveness, and incentives. The degree of inventiveness in any society depends greatly upon the incentive of rewards. A society that rewards new ideas and encourages them generally benefits. A society that discourages them risks stagnation. A tightly structured and inflexible society may be very unreceptive to new ideas. Strict religious beliefs have hampered the development of many civilizations and continue to do so. The great ancient library of Alexandria, an immense storehouse of ancient knowledge, was destroyed by religious fanatics. The loss of information in this library contributed to the length of the Dark Ages. The apparent collapse of many communistic society today is in part due to their failure to develop and accept new ideas. Societies that reward new ideas with riches, fame, and power encourage debate, thought, and invention. This may lead to a flowering of philosophy, science, and commerce. Inventiveness is characteristic of the strongest and most influential civilizations. Example of this are the philosophy and science of the classical Greeks, the engineering of the Roman Republic, and the commerce of the Italian city-states during the Renaissance. The pursuit of the arts is the final element of civilization, and again, the definition of how art is determined to be civilized or not remains unclear. Durant defines art as the creation of beauty, but beauty is a relative thing. What is beautiful to primitive men may be repulsive to plain to a modern gallery goer, and vice versa. To some extent, civilized art may be considered art for beauty's sake, an expression of thought or feeling that brings delight. In primitive art, the sense of beauty is a secondary characteristic. Primitive art first has a usefulness like another tool and performs a function. Adornment of the body, music, and dances helps attract a mate. Primitive art also may serve a role in religion, enhancing the plea for good harvest, hunting, healthy babies, rainfall, relief from disease, etc. The presence of these four elements together in a society defined as constituting civilization: economic provision, political organization, moral traditions, and the pursuit of knowledge and the arts. A society that lacks one or more never quite becomes civilized. A society that loses one or more over time falls back into a primitive state and disappears as a civilization. Through humankind's history, many such civilizations have come and gone. The advance of knowledge. The major dynamic of change throughout the history of civilization has been the continuing advance in the accumulation of knowledge. As humankind progresses by fits and starts through the ages, civilizations rose and fell to a large degree depending on the knowledge that they acquired and how they employed it. Those that first acquired new knowledge were often able to employ it to build a more powerful position. But there are many cases of civilizations that obtained some new technology first and then failed to use it to their advantage. The pace at which new knowledge was organized and implemented by society depended on many factors, including its social organizations, economic organization, geographic location, leadership, and competition. The concept of progress being not only inevitable but also a good thing is a relatively recent phenomenon. Only the last several hundred years have we actively studied history and considered the evidence of the historical record. For most of human history, the pace of progress was so slow as to be barely detectable. But since the Industrial Revolution, the pace of advance and change has dramatically increased. Rapid change is now considered normal. For much of the world, new discoveries are continually expected and are not a surprise. There are those who would argue that the advance of knowledge is not necessarily a good thing. At various times in history, some societies attempted to put a stop to progress. In most cases, this decision was made by a few people in the leadership who thought they knew what was best for everyone. History shows that individuals continually attempting to improve their lives cannot be prevented from invention, and this in turn has made change inevitable. It is clear that some invention occurs by accident. A string of idle thoughts may lead to a new conclusion, or an accidental mix-up in the chemistry lab may result in a useful new compound. But invention occurs much more commonly in response to a need. When civilization began and humans started living in cities, a host of new problems arose. The The search for solutions to these problems resulted in an accelerating pace of discovery of new ideas and inventions. A need triggered the search for new knowledge, and the new ideas created, in turn, new needs. The advance of knowledge has been a continually evolving process, with each new idea leading to new possibilities. We can examine the progress of human societies as a series of changes and adjustments brought about by the never-ending search for improvement. The result of this dynamic process has been ever-expanding human populations, a generally improved standard of living, and a greater understanding of the world around us. The singular technological advancement was the prerequisite for civilization was the agricultural revolution. Humans changed from food gatherers and hunters to farmers and herders over several thousand years. Food supplies became more abundant and dependable. People began to congregate in cities central to their fields, specialize in their skills, and employ free time to invent and ponder new ideas. Farming created an increased need for food storage containers, especially in areas where crops were seasonal. Over a long period, the experimentation with clay, the firing of clay, and eventually the potter's wheel developed the technology of pottery and ceramics. This made the storage of food surpluses possible and improved cooking and diet. The standard of living and life expectancy dramatically improved. None of this is actually related to the game, is it? This is just an essay on civilization. I mean, it's interesting, but it's getting late. I want to go to bed soon. Let's skip all this. I guess as we develop those technologies, we should probably come and read what they're saying about them. That would be fun, but leader biographies. The civilizations that oppose you are ruled by well-known figures from history. For example, if you encounter the Greeks, they are ruled by Alexander the Great. Strengths and weaknesses of the leader are reflected in how that person manages his or her civilization. Alexander, who conquered most of the known world in his time, may be expected to be similarly aggressive if he appears as one of your rivals. Each rival leader in civilization is rated in 3 categories: aggression, development, and militarism. ADM, attack, defense, movement. Aggression measures how likely the leader is to go to war with his neighbors. Aggressive leaders are likely to choose war. Friendly leaders are likely to make peace even when not at war elsewhere. Expansionist leaders are interested in expanding the settler civilization and devote resources to building settlers and sending them out to found new cities. Perfectionist leaders, on the other end of the scale, are more interested in building up individual cities and improving the terrain around them. When they do expand, they do so at a much less reduced rate than their opponents. Militaristic leaders seek to acquire technology that leads to better weapons. Civilized leaders are more useful in improving their civilization economically and politically. You can learn about the personality of any leader with which you have established an embassy from your intelligence advisor. For example, Elizabeth I is only listed as expansionist. She is neutral towards aggression and militarism. These personality traits are only tendencies, and that all leaders are capable of any type of action depending on circumstance. Abraham Lincoln for the Americans are most likely to become a democracy. When they look to expand, they are not overly aggressive. Alexander the Great, they can be expected to expand aggressively. Elizabeth I, she's aggressively expanding and competently growing at home. Genghis Khan for the Mongols, very aggressively expand at the expense of the development of individual cities. Babylonians are more concerned with building and growing rather than continual expansion. Julius Caesar, they're balanced. Mahatma Gandhi are not aggressively expansive and are more likely to develop the areas that can be obtained peaceably. They are conscious of technology and can be a strong rival in the space race. Mao Zedong, they want to build a strong civilization and don't seek to expand. The Aztec, Montezuma, are fierce warriors and dangerous opponents. They are quite capable of competent military campaigns while simultaneously building a strong empire. The French are conquerors and seek to expand. Not as dangerous as the Aztecs or Greeks, they are still a threat that must be watched. Ramses for the Egyptians are great builders. They construct mighty cities and can be a threat if they are allowed to expand over large areas. Shaka for the Zulus. They're not fascinated by technology, and you may be able to gain a technological advantage over them. Stalin for the Russians. They're capable of aggressive expansion, but may fall behind the development of cities and technology. And Suleiman, the Turks, aggressive and generally unpleasant neighbor. So Turks, Russians, French, Aztecs, and Greeks are the most ones that will try and conquer you. Player's notes: recommend to play a chieftain. Sooner decide is try to pick a site for your city soon. The best squares are grasslands that show a resource symbol, plains, and river squares. Only some river squares are resources. Boom. Oh, so you want to be careful to be honest on a river square. Could be next to one that has a grassland or a plain would be better. You want a nearby river, special resources like horse or game, or grasslands that show the resource symbol. Sitting next to the ocean is good for allowing for your ship construction. Avoid deserts and mountains, or too much ocean, forest, or hills. This is most useful to build 2 militia units immediately with your first city. Moving into 4 adjacent map squares to the northeast, south, and west to discover the terrain. And when the second militia unit appears, fortified in the city. Then get bronze working so you get phalanx to defend the city. 2 phalanxes are recommended for defense, especially in cities on the edge of your empire. Then plan the placement of your next and future cities. Look for good sites sufficiently distant so that the overlaps is minimized or prevented. Settlers are also needed to build roads and irrigate. Yeah, that's something that didn't really talk about, but it's settlers that do that, huh? Most of your early cities should have a settler in existence doing work of some kind. If it founds a new city, have the home city build another settler. Expand as fast as you can. Keep producing settler units and send them to good city sites that your military units have discovered. Most of the great civilizations of history were built by military conquest, and your rivals are going to be somewhat aggressive. Prepare for defense. You need to build up your economy with extensive trade routes. Stay ahead in technology to discourage attack. Keep the civilization advances chart from the back of this manual handy. Examine the chart and have some plans for which tactics to pursue. Pottery speeds the growth of city. Bronze working introduces the phalanx. Horseback riding is cavalry. Wheel is the chariot. Ceremonial burial, alphabetic code of laws, you get more efficient government. If you're on a small island or continent, map making to build ships. Getting monarchy to get a better government. Masonry and mathematics are useful if you're into war. And trade gives you the caravan. Wonders take a long time, so be careful. It may be cheaper to capture an enemy city that has built a wonder than build a wonder yourself. Despotism is good for wartime and expansion. Once the cities are spread out and are reaching a size of 7 or higher, switch to monarchy. Especially when you have irrigated grasslands and rivers, because now you get a lot more food. And as the cities get larger, you probably want to try and switch to republic or democracy after you grow beyond 10 people, because they substantially increase trade. But it's harder to conduct war with them. When to go to war. If you're not prepared for war, try to appease them for a few turns until you're ready to fight again. Pillage irrigation and mines to slow enemy growth and production. You can try and use diplomats on a sabotage mission to destroy walls. That can be helpful. To improve economy, establish trade routes with large cities of other civilizations. Try to establish the maximum 3 trade routes for each of the larger cities. Develop ocean, gem, or gold mine squares. Attempt to establish an embassy with each of your opponents as you encounter them. Destroy rival diplomats when you see them. You get to basically choose between economic development or militaristic expansion. If you're isolated on a reasonably sized continent, economic development is good. Then monarchy, then democracy as soon as possible. If it's a huge continent, but with one or more rivals, you should prepare for war to ensure sufficient expansion. Alright. The main inspiration for Civilization was the success and reception of Railroad Tycoon. We were very pleased with how Railroad Tycoon worked and began looking for a suitable topic to which we could apply some of its better concepts. Thinking back, we can't recall now what triggered the idea of making a new game about the history of civilization, but once the topic arose, it quickly became obvious that it fit our specifications. The central concept to Civilization was that it was to be a god game, casting the player as the hero and ruler of a civilization over the course of its history. In this role, he would guide and build a civilization, watching it grow and expand, or rise or fall. As play proceeded, the player could see the result of his decisions unfold, and success would hinge on his relative skill. We also wanted Civilization to require a decision maker to juggle several balls at once. We found in Railroad Tycoon that this helped keep the challenge and interest high. As Sid sketched out the basic design, he evolved the various hats the player would wear. Clearly, he would be the military commander, moving his armies against rivals. The second role was that of economic planner. Wearing this hat, the player would plan the placement, growth, and production of cities. The player would have to decide between guns or butter, producing military hardware or economic enhancement for a civilization. The player would also have to decide upon the direction of research for new knowledge. This again would often be guns of butter situation, as some advances improve internal conditions and others made the military more potent. The player would have to judge which avenue of research was most useful at any one time, and be prepared to change if conditions warranted it. As design work continued, additional player roles were added. He would have to conduct his own diplomacy. By keeping track of rivals through the report of his advisor, the player would have to make judgments on whom to appease, whom to attack, whom to make friends, and whom to ignore. In addition, the management of each city was made more complex, forcing the player to spend more time to keep them efficient and stable. With all these duties falling to the player, we felt that we had come up with a mix of interesting decisions that would keep the player challenged and result in a game that was fun and addictive. Another major concept that we wanted to borrow from Railroad Tycoon was the variability of worlds that made every game different. That worked really well in a previous game, making the play fresh each time. We also decided early on to include the hidden map. We found that this contributed significantly to the fun and interest of play. Another feature that Sid developed was the Civilopedia, the online encyclopedia of game concepts. We thought this would especially help new players. Most of these game features were in place in a rough form by the end of the winter of 1990-1991. Thereafter, work proceeded mainly by trial and error process of coding, testing, reviewing, and recoding. Through the spring and summer, a new version appeared every day or so, and the design became more refined. We made adjustments to the list of technology advances, we juggled their relationships, we made changes in the types and values of military units, we adjusted the time length of turns, we curbed the danger presented by barbarians, and most critically, we continually improved the artificial intelligence of the rival civilizations. Among the interesting features that didn't make the final cuts were ocean minefields that could be laid down by ironclads, alcoholic beverages proposed by some as a major impetus for first permanent settlements, solar power plants, fighter bombers 88832, the superhighways wonders that speed world building, Charlemagne, King and Franks, and much more detailed spaceship. The most important feature that went in the game as near completion as that went in as the game near completion was the concept of trade routes established by caravans. This helped with the generation of knowledge and the establishment of strong economies. It also encouraged exploration and diplomacy. Also important was the home city concept, especially under the Republic or democracy. Originally, military units cost of $2 maintenance each under these governments, then only $1 if they were fortified or on sentry duty. While military units costed happiness instead, this seemed to work more as one would expect. It became more difficult to wage war under these governments and provided an interesting trade-off for improved economic performance. The last major feature to be included was the space race. We had tossed around several ideas for ending the game but eventually returned to space, one of the earliest ideas. Reaching another planet with colonists from Earth made an excellent culmination from the history of humankind on our planet. Like Railroad Tycoon, Civilization has been a great project to work on. In fact, important work has often been delayed because it was so much fun to play. Civilization has been proven to be extraordinarily popular with our colleagues here at MPS Labs, and that's a good sign. So many cool features and interesting decisions, plus an endless supply of new worlds, we are certain that Civilization is the last game you'll ever need. But just in case you'll disagree, we'll start on something new as soon as this one goes out the door. Sid Meier, Bruce Shelley, September 11, 1991. Further reading. And the index. Let's check out the additional feature supplement. No, this is not what I was looking for. Oh, roads and railroads may be pillaged. Computers and rocketry are required for space flight. Alright. And then it's this chart. Okay. So, horseback riding gives cavalry, temple. Alphabet unlocks a whole bunch of stuff. Masonry, city walls, pyramids, the Great Wall. Yeah, so it sounds like you probably want to start with bronze working for the phalanx, or pottery for the granary. Need feudalism for the knight. Where's feudalism? It's probably further down. Feudalism. Over there. Oof. Yeah, this advances chart is not great because it doesn't really show how things are connected to each other, but monarchy requires ceremonial burial. Republic requires literacy, which is oh god, this is a terrible chart. Literacy. which itself requires code of laws. Yeah, this is something that we're going to have to look at for during the game itself. There's no way to sort this out. But Phalanx and the other one was the Legion. Where's the Legion? Should be early on, right? Okay, where's the Legion? Why do I not see the Legion? Maybe is the Legion only Roman? Oh no, here it is, ironworking. Okay, so in a way you can do bronze working, then ironworking, get a phalanx and a legion, and then start pairing them together. Okay.
Timmy suddenly let out a big yawn. Oh,
Jeez, I must be getting tired. Maybe I should say goodnight to Mom and Dad and read a book in bed.
Timmy hopped downstairs to the living room where Mom and Dad were watching TV.
Everything okay, Timmy?
Asked his mom, surprised to see him downstairs at this hour.
Yes, I just wanted to say goodnight.
Stop the presses! One of our sons is willingly going to bed early. Now I've seen everything, joked Dad in a very dad-like way.
Come on, dear.
Said Mom, rolling her eyes.
Try promoting this behavior instead of teasing him about it. I personally think it's a great idea. Tomorrow will be such a busy day and you'll need to be well rested to enjoy it to the fullest.
Why, what's tomorrow?
Said Timmy in confusion. And then suddenly, before his mom started speaking, the realization of the date hit him.
It's the 4th of July. We'll go to Grandma's for the usual barbecue where you'll get to hang out with your cousins, and after dinner we'll watch the fireworks together downtown. Did you forget what day it was, you silly goose?
Timmy was not entirely sure how to feel about it. Sure, his cousins were fun, and you wouldn't say no to a nice juicy burger freshly made on the grill. But there went his chance to put in practice after all the lessons he'd learned by reading the Civilization Manual, which miffed him just a little. Oh well, there was nothing to be done about it anyways. He wouldn't be allowed not to come, and he figured he could chat up one of the older cousins for some more info about PC games anyways.
Yeah, I kinda did. Okay, I'll go get ready for bed and read for a little bit. Good night, Mom.
Kiss on the cheek.
Good night, Dad.
Kiss on the cheek.
Remember, lights out by 10:30 p.m. at the latest. I'll send Dad to check in on you and make sure you're asleep.
Of course, Mom. Good night.
Timmy took a quick look at the clock and saw it was already 10 p.m. That didn't leave a lot of time to read in bed, so he went back upstairs and got into his PJs. Though he took advantage of the lack of supervision to accidentally forget to brush his teeth. He got under the covers and grabbed the Flights of Fantasy book he borrowed from the library.
Alright, took long enough to get there. Flights of Fantasy. There are several individuals I'd like to thank for their help in putting this book together. First of all, Mitch Waite has my heartfelt thanks for taking a chance on an author he knew only through a series of email messages. I hope I didn't give him too many gray hairs before it was done. Hans-Peter Rushworth's contributions to this book were invaluable. To name but two, he spontaneously telephoned Mark Betts from the opposite side of the Atlantic Ocean to suggest techniques for calculating the rotations of an aircraft in three-dimensional space, and he proposed a method of backface removal now used in the flight simulator includes with this book. John Dlugosch author of the excellent Viewpoint Library of Graphics Routine and fellow inhabitant of the CompuServe Gaming Forum, offering me advice on a number of esoteric programming points. Hal Raymond drew the excellent animated figures of Walkman in chapters 4 and 5. The striking cloudscape that provides the backdrop for the flight simulator title screen was photographed and scanned by fine arts photographer Richard M. Coda of New Jersey, who can be contacted on CompuServe at certain ID. The photograph, entitled Clouds No. 1, Prompton Lakes, New Jersey, is copyright 1983 by Richard M. Coda and is used with permission. Thanks, Richard. 3 people in particular deserve more than a passing mention. Susan Wiener, my significant other and longtime companion, not only endured my long disappearances into the computer room while I worked on this project, but helped with rough sketches for illustrations, kept the refrigerator stocked with milk and eggs when I was too busy to go to a grocery, and occasionally dragged me off to feed the ducks and geese at the local lake. Scott Calamar, my editor, amazingly managed to remain patient and even understanding through missed deadlines and panicked phone calls from an author who was inwardly convinced that the project he had foolishly chosen to tackle was never, ever going to be finished. I'm not actually sure I told Scott I believed this, but I think he shared the belief. And finally, I owe a deep debt of gratitude to Mark Betts, a skilled young C++ programmer who gave unstintingly of his time and talent, asking in return only that I mention his name a few dozen times in this book. You've got it, Mark. I hope some game company snatches you up and pays you the huge amounts of money to perform programming miracles for them. And if they don't, well, I plan to write other books by and by. Dear reader, ever wonder what is inside the programming that makes up a powerful, realistic flight simulator game, such as Spectrum Holobyte's Falcon 3? After playing the game for a few hours, I had to know how the programming alchemist made its performance so darn realistic. Now you can find out. With this book and a Borland C++ compiler, you will go from knowing practically nothing about video games to writing a full-blown, high-power C++ flight-based simulator, C++-based flight simulator that performs and handles very much like a commercial video game. The simulator has a scenery, a 4-way cockpit view, it can land and take off, bank and climb, and it even has a digitized engine sound that plays if you have a compatible Sound Blaster card. The book shows you how to do everything. Animation with bitmaps, polygon fills, clapping regions, sound generation, scenery, fractal mountains, assembly language fine-tuning, joystick control, matrix math, you name it. Every chapter is a tutorial in the magic that is video game programming, and when you are done, you can call yourself a master. Along the way, you will pick up everlasting experience in your C++ coding skills. On the disk that comes with the book, you will find all the source code and a compiled exe version of the game ready to fly. We have started a following on CompuServe called the Fly-By-Night Group in the game design section of the Gamers Forum. There you will find a complete copy of the latest source code for the game, as well as experts that have contributed to this great program. If you're an aspiring computer game programmer, experienced C-coder, borderline programming aficionado, or just a regular software jock, this book is going to blow your mind. Let me know what you think of CompuServe, blah blah blah. Preface. Once upon a time, flight simulators were expensive machines produced by the Air Force and commercial airlines and are used exclusively to train pilots. That's no longer so. These days, flight simulators are a category of computer game, one of the most popular there is. Programmed using state-of-the-art techniques for rendering animated three-dimensional images on the video display of a microcomputer, flight simulators give armchair pilots the chance to do something that until now only real pilots were allowed to do: fly an airplane. This book is for microcomputer programmers who want to write their own flight simulators but aren't quite sure how to go about it. In the pages that follow, I'll guide you through every aspect of the flight simulator programming. The creation of three-dimensional images, the monitoring of user input devices like the keyboard, mouse, and joystick, the use of the popular Sound Blaster board to produce sound effects, the creation of a flight model that simulates the way in which airplanes actually fly, or a close facsimile thereof. Although bits and pieces of this information have appeared elsewhere, this is the first comprehensive look of all the techniques needed to create a working flight simulator. On the enclosed disk is a program called the Flights of Fantasy Flight Simulator. It is an actual working flight simulator written by the author of this book with considerable help from programmer Mark Betts. Both the executable version of this program and the source code, written for version 3 of the Borland C++ compiler, are included. You can examine this program, play with it, take it apart, even rewrite it, or you can use parts of it in programs of your own. In a sense, this book is an experiment. To the best of my knowledge, it is the first book to contain a full-fledged working flight simulator, or for that matter, any commercial quality computer game, that was developed as the book was being written. This means the extensive programming info in this book has been reality tested from beginning to end. Unlike some books on 3D computer graphics, the information in this book isn't abstract theory. It's practical advice, all of it illustrated by working code. This also means that the program was still evolving as each chapter was written. For that reason, we've included a file on disk called readme.txt that will document any changes that have taken place in the program since the book went to press. Some of the most sophisticated code modules appear more than once in different versions. These modules evolved dynamically as the book was written. These changes are documented both in the text and in the readme.txt file. I apologize for any discrepancies between the text of the programs as given in the book and as recorded on the disk. I can only hope that the value of having this working code in hand will compensate for any frustration the reader may feel at minor differences in the programs. In most instances, the difference will be no more than a reformatting of program lines and the addition of comments. Any larger changes will be documented in the readme.txt. To reflect the dynamic nature of the evolving code in this book, I'll be available on the computer network at ID such number to answer any and all questions about the Flight Simulator program and three-dimensional animation programming in general, or just to shoot the breeze. Both Mark Betts and I can usually be found hanging around the game design section in the CompuServe Gamers forum, discussing esoteric animation techniques. Anyone interested in this and other programming and design topics is encouraged to type Go Gamers after logging on to CompuServe and read the messages in section 11. The latest updates to the simulator itself should be available in Library 11 of that forum for download. And these are instructions for installing the files, but we should probably do this on a computer. Chapter 1, Graphics Primer. In the late 1970s, Bruce Artwick changed the course of microcomputer gaming history. The computer arcade games of that era were making the transition from simplicity of Pong and Breakout to the relative complexity of Asteroids and Pac-Man, but Artwick's ambitions went beyond even sophisticated two-dimensional animations. He wanted to create a world inside his microcomputer and to show animated images of that world on the video display. To that end, he developed a set of three-dimensional animation routines tailor-made for the limited capabilities of 8-bit microcomputers. With the encouragement of a friend who flew small planes, Artwick used these animation techniques to write a game called Flight Simulator, which ran in low-resolution graphics on the Apple II and TRS-80 Model 1 computers. Released commercially in 1979 by Artwick's company, Sublogic Inc., Flight Simulator allowed the player to fly a small airplane over a rectangular patch of land bisected by a river and bordered on two sides by a mountain. If the player wished, he or she could declare war and dogfight with a squadron of World War I biplanes. Despite the low-resolution graphics, the game drew raves from players and reviewers alike because it did something no microcomputer game had done before. It created a fully three-dimensional world in which the player could move about freely and depicted that work graphically on the video display of the computer. Even so, Flight Simulator is memorable more for what it became than what it was. Over the next 3 years, Artwick wrote a sequel, Flight Simulator 2, which was first marketed in 1982 by the Microsoft Corporation for the IBM PC. Flight Simulator 2 was a quantum jump beyond Artwick's first simulator. Although the original Flight Simulator 1 was still embedded within it as World War I flying ace, the meat of the new game was a huge database of scenery that left the player fly over much of Illinois, Artwick's home, Northwest Washington, site of Microsoft, Southern California, and the New York to Boston corridor, all in high-resolution color graphics. The descendants of Flight Simulator. Flight Simulator 2 was an immediate hit. Weekly news magazines carried articles about it, and celebrities gushed over it. Over the next few years, it was translated to almost every popular computing platform of the period. The Commodore 64 and Amiga, the Atari 800 and ST, the Apple II and Macintosh. Artwick had upgraded the program several times. The current version is Flight Simulator 4, and Flight Simulator 5 is rumored to be on the way. The phenomenal success of Artwick's Flight Simulator did not go unnoticed. Following the publication of Flight Simulator 2, Flight Simulator games evolved into a genre of computer games. One entire company, Microprose Software, sprang up around the line of flight simulators, so it later diversified into other kinds of simulations. Other companies, such as Spectrum Holobyte, soon joined the fray. Although Artwick's FS2 remained state-of-the-art for several years, an unusual feat in the fast-moving world of entertainment software, his competitors eventually produced equally impressive games. Among the best of these are Microprose F-19 Stealth Fighter, Spectrum Holobyte's Falcon 3.0, shown in Figure 1.1, Sierra Dynamics' Red Baron and Aces of the Pacific, 360 Pacific's Mega Fortress, LucasArts' Secret Weapons of the Luftwaffe, Electronic Arts' Chuck Yeager's Air Combat, and Velocity Development's Jetfighter 2. What these games have in common, aside from a large and enthusiastic following among computer game aficionados and armchair pilots, is that they all use computer graphics to create the illusion of a three-dimensional world inside the computer. Most of these games rely on a technique known as polygon-filled graphics to render images of mountains, buildings, rivers, coastlines, and occasionally human beings. When done well, the effect is almost magical. The player is transported into the world of the flight simulator as though it were real. Although the effect that they produce seem like magic, the techniques used to render the three-dimensional world of a flight simulator aren't magical at all. For years, they were hidden in the pages of esoteric programming texts, where programmers without a background in advanced mathematics and computer theory have found it difficult to apply them. Until now. To illustrate how these techniques work, we'll build a number of demonstration programs in later chapters, culminating in a working flight simulator. For the benefit of programmers with no PC graphics programming experience, though, we'll start with an overview of the basic concepts of computer graphics in general and IBM PC graphics in particular. Programmers who have already mastered two-dimensional graphic techniques may wish to skim the rest of this chapter, so skipping it entirely is not recommended. At the very least, I hope you'd find it entertaining. Graphics in games. At the heart of every great computer game is a picture, or more likely, 2 or 3 or 1,000 pictures. At one time, it was possible to publish a major computer game that didn't use graphics. In the 1980s, Infocom Incorporated produced a wonderful series of text adventures with no graphics capabilities whatsoever. But game buyers in the 90s demanded state-of-the-art graphics, even if visual images have little or nothing to do with the game. One of the most popular arcade games ever, Spectrum Holobyte's version of Tetris, features background scenes from the former Soviet Union that are completely unrelated to the action of the game. Great game design and play balance are also essential to a top-notch game, of course, but neither can save the game with lousy graphics from commercial oblivion. Thus, a programmer who wants to produce games for the IBM PC must understand the graphics capabilities of that computer, and a programmer who wants to produce three-dimensional animation must have an acute understanding of PC graphics. Text versus graphics. The images on a video display fall loosely into two categories, text and graphics. At any given time, the video display of a PC-compatible microcomputer is either in text mode or graphics mode. The text mode displays consists of alphanumeric characters, while a graphics mode display is made up of pictures. The distinction isn't always that obvious, though. Sometimes what looks like text, it's really graphics, and what looks like graphics is really text. The Microsoft Windows operating system, for instance, uses graphics mode to produce all of its text output. See Figure 1.2. And the IBM character set, see Figures 1.3, includes graphics character that can be used to render crude pictures in text mode. In fact, the two display modes have one important characteristic in common. Whether in text or graphics mode, everything on the video display is made up of a matrix of dots called pixels, short for pictorial elements. The pixel is the atomic component out of which all computer images are constructed. If you look closely at the display screen of your microcomputer, you may be able to discern the individual pixels. The programmer's view. The most obvious differences between text mode and graphics mode lie on the programming level. When a PC is in text mode, the programmer must specify what appears on the video display in terms of predefined character set consisting of 256 different characters. Any of these characters can be placed in any of 2,000 different positions on the video display, but the individual pixels within the character cannot be altered, nor can a character be positioned on the display any more precisely than the 2,000 available positions allow. Thus, text characters must line up in neat rows and columns across the display. See Figure 1.4. When a PC is in graphics mode, on the other hand, the programmer has direct control over every pixel of the display. There is no predefined character set in graphics mode. The programmer is free to invent pixel images and place them anywhere on the video display. Since graphics mode offers the programmer that kind of power, you might wonder why any programmer would choose to work in text mode. The answer is that graphics mode, while offering considerable power and freedom, isn't easy to use. If all you need to do is display text characters on a video screen, it's much easier to use the predefined character set. A game programmer doesn't really have that choice. Game buyers demand state-of-the-art graphics when they purchase software, and there's no way that we can produce state-of-the-art graphics in text mode. For the rest of this chapter, I'll look at the graphics capabilities of the Video Graphics Array, or VGA, the graphics adapter sold with the vast majority of PC-compatible macrocomputers. Inside the VGA. The VGA adapter includes a multitude of text and graphics modes, each of which has different characteristics and is programmed in a different way.
The reason for this are at least partly historical.
The VGA is designed to be compatible with software written for earlier IBM graphics adapters. Looking at the various video modes of the VGA adapter is like walking through a museum full of exhibits showing how programming was done in the not-so-distant past. In the beginning, there were no graphics on the IBM PC. When International Business Machines released its first microcomputer in the fall of 1981, there was only one video adapter available for the new computer. Called the Monochrome Display Adapter, MDA, it was incapable of producing images on the computer's video display that were not constructed from the 256 characters of the IBM character set. It didn't take long for IBM to realize that this was a mistake. Almost immediately after the introduction of the PC, the Color Graphics Adapter, CGA, was released. The text characters at display were fuzzier than the ones produced by the MDA, but the CGA offered something that the MDA did not: color images, in which every pixel was under the programmer's control. Unfortunately, the color images produced by the CGA weren't especially good, particularly in comparison with those produced by other computers on the market at the time. That didn't stop people from buying IBM microcomputers by the millions, but it was an obstacle for game programmers. Few major games were designed on the IBM PC in the early 1980s. Flight Simulator 2 was a notable exception, and games translated for the IBM from other computers were usually graphically inferior to the original versions.
IBM graphics improve.
In 1984, IBM introduced the Enhanced Graphic Adapter, EGA. Graphics produced on the EGA improved a quantum leap beyond those produced by the CGA, but they still lag behind the screen images of other 16-bit computers debuting at that time. Few IBM users bought the EGA in the years immediately after its introduction, and game designers still ignored the PC. Then, 2 or 3 years later, the price of the EGA adapter went down and sales went up. Slowly, game designers began to discover the PC. Finally, introducing the PS2 line in 1987, IBM surprised the gaming world with the Video Graphics Array VGA, which could output startlingly vivid images to the PC's video display. The VGA made the IBM a viable gaming machine for the first time. As the 1990s dawned, game players who owned their machines moved to the IBM and compatibles in droves, and game programmers in the United States began designing games first and often exclusively for the PC. Why was the VGA responsible for such a dramatic revolution? It was capable of placing 256 colors on the video display at one time. Compare this to the capabilities of other gaming computers popular in 1987. The Commodore 64 and the Atari ST could display 16 colors at one time, and the Commodore Amiga could display 32. Actually, the Amiga is capable of displaying 4,096 colors at one time, but the programming restrictions on the matter these colors can be displayed are so severe that few game designers have embraced this capability. Video modes galore. When the first CGA rolled out of the factory in 1981, it supported 7 official video modes. 4 could only display text characters, and 3 were capable of displaying pixel graphics. The EGA, which was intended by IBM to be upwardly compatible with the CGA, supported all of these modes and added several more. In all, the EGA supported 16 official video modes, 7 of which were graphics modes. VGA expanded the list to 24 different modes, 9 of them graphic modes. Most of these modes are of historical interest only. They exist so that programs written for earlier IBM video adapters will still run on the VGA adapter. There are also several unofficial graphics modes available on the VGA adapter, and the so-called Super VGA adapters offer alternate modes. What's the difference among the standard VGA modes? Obviously, some of them are text modes and some are video modes. We've already looked at the difference between text and video modes. But what could be the difference between one text mode and another text mode? Or between one video mode and another video mode? In both cases, the answer is the same: resolution and color depth. Modes differ from one another in the number of pixels that can be placed on the display at one time, and in the number of colors those pixels can display. The first of these attributes is called resolution, the second is sometimes referred to as color depth. These attributes in turn affect the amount of detail that can be displayed on the screen in graphics mode, and the number of characters that can appear on the screen in text modes. Figure 1.5a shows a low-resolution text mode. The text characters are large and blocky, only 40 can be displayed horizontally. This mode was included in early IBM PCs because some users were expected to use a standard television as a video output device, and large characters were more readable on a TV screen. Few people took this option, however, and the mode was only retained in later graphics adapters to accommodate those programs that have written to use it. Figure 1.5b shows a high-resolution text mode. The text characters are smaller and sharper looking. Because 80 characters can be displayed horizontally, this mode is ideal for applications that need to present a large amount of text to the user all at once, or processors, for example, or spreadsheets. The graphic modes are shown in Figure 1.6 are similarly divided between low-resolution and high-resolution modes. The lowest resolution graphics modes available on the standard VGA adapter feature a mix of 320 pixels horizontally and 200 pixels vertically, 300 by 200. The highest resolution modes feature a mix of 720 x 400 pixels for text modes and 640 x 480 pixels for graphics modes. The lowest color depth modes offer only two different colors of pixel on the display at one time. The highest color depth modes offer pixels in 256 colors at one time. As a general rule, the greater the color depth, the smaller the number of pixels that can be displayed on the screen at one time. For our purposes as game programmers, only two of the standard VGA graphics modes are of real importance. Mode 12H, which can display a matrix of 640 x 480 pixels in 16 different colors, and Mode 13H, which can display a matrix of 320 x 200 pixels in 256 colors. Most games currently on the market use one of these two modes, or variations of them that I'll discuss in the appendix. And the vast majority of these games use mode 13H because of its greater color depth. Thus, that's the mode we'll use for programs in this book. And that's the mode I'll describe in detail for the remainder of this chapter. We've now looked briefly at the memory connection. We've now looked briefly at the graphics modes offered by the VGA adapter and focused on mode 13H for further discussion. Now let's get down to the real nitty-gritty. Let's look at how a programmer goes about creating patterns of pixels in the video display of a PC-compatible microcomputer. For now, I'll talk about this in theoretical terms. In Chapter 3, I'll give specific programming examples showing how images are placed on the computer display. You can think of a VGA adapter as a miniature television transmitter, sending a video signal from the computer to the video monitor, much as a television station sends a picture to the television set in your bedroom, as shown in Figure 1.7. The main difference between the VGA adapter and a television transmitter is that a television transmitter sends a signal as electromagnetic waves that travel through space to an antenna, while the VGA adapter sends its signal through a cable as an electric current. And with the growing popularity of cable television, even that difference is starting to disappear. There are also some technical differences between the form that the VGA signal takes and the form taken by the standard television transmission, but those differences need not concern us here. A television picture has to originate somewhere, usually from a video camera in a television studio or from a videotape player similar to the VCR you probably have hooked up to your television. There's obviously no television studio or videotape player inside your computer, so where does the VGA picture originate? The answer is video memory. Before I discuss video memory, though, I was to digress for a moment and talk about computer memory in general.
Timmy realized his eyes had started glazing over the sentences and decided nothing would be gained by continuing reading the book. So he put it on the nightstand, turned off the light, and closed his eyes. By the time his dad came to check on him a few minutes later, Timmy was fast asleep. As Dad closes the door, seconds become minutes, and minutes become hours, and Saturday night gives way to Sunday.
Curious, we can't seem to access it.
Monday morning.